A heated encounter between the humans and the monsters is going on. This armored guy on the front is easily dealing with as many monsters as he can while the rest are taking care of his leftovers. Everyone is impressed with how amazing Miyamoto is, and it's becoming harder to keep count of their monster score. Just then, this mohawk picks up a huge boulder, heavier than the responsibility of bringing Rome back to its glory. He throws it at the monsters and crushes them like she crushed your feelings. Everyone praises Onizuka while he's totally drunk on this newly acquired skill called God of Augurs. Then this girl in the back calls for everyone's attention and uses her own skill to heal the injured. The monster is saying some cuss words in his own language, whereas this guy uses his skill to pull the monster closer and barely defeat him. Just by taking down one monster, this guy is as tired as the programmer searching for that one misplaced comma in 200 lines of code. Out of all the people we have been introduced to, this black-haired guy happens to be our protagonist, unfortunately. He looks at the monster bodies laid in front of him and wonders how long this is going to continue. He's not the only one with this thought. Everyone except for Miyamoto and Onizuka is getting tired, whereas these two are in their own league. Onizuka suggests leading these little NPC monsters to the weakling behind so he and Miyamoto can go directly for the bigger fish. Miyamoto can't deny how weak these monsters are, but he reminds Onizuka that there's an order for everything. Onizuka then yells at others for walking slowly as they are barely keeping up with these two beasts. Menace then reads the room and decides to suggest Miyamoto take a break as everyone has been fighting ever since they arrived here. She thinks that taking a short break would maximize their efficiency in the next battle. The way Menace then asks if it would be fine is so irresistible and cute that not only Miyamoto agrees but everyone cheers up. Our protagonist, who might be weak right now, but at least he's a human and not some goblin or a vending machine, sits down and takes out his drink to satisfy his thirst. He looks around and thinks about how it's been a while since they were summoned in this world. A few hours ago, our protagonist was just a normal high school student, a random loner who didn't even get that main protagonist's seat in the last row by the window. The bell rang and he picked up his bag so he could head home right away and did into the new game he bought recently. However, he suddenly heard some weird noises. Just then, the floor started to tear up and bright light emerged out of it. That day, they were wrapped by that light. Before they could understand what was going on, it was already too late. The light unwrapped them, and the whole class found themselves summoned to another world. Our protagonist was scared as hell, and judging by his expressions, he seemed to have that redo of healer expression. Then this uncle with a crown announced with great pleasure that the summoning was successful and welcomed the heroes. The students called out the old man for summoning them without their permission and asked him to let them go back right now. They tried to use their phones, but nothing worked. The old man quietly waited for an opportunity to speak as these idiots were continuously yapping. The opportunity is then handed over to him by Miyamoto, who tells everyone to calm down. Like civilized people, he asks everyone to shut the hell up so he can talk to the old man on everyone's behalf. He then politely began the questioning. Meanwhile, our protagonist can't help but be amazed at how easily the student council president Miyamoto can help everyone regain their composure with just a few words. He realized that Miyamoto is the true embodiment of charm. Afterward, they learned a lot about this world. They were summoned here because the empire was endangered by different kinds of races and cultures. Finally, they realized why they were referred to as heroes. A system window appeared in front of every student with their skills and level on display. We finally get to see the name of our protagonist, Nakatani Yuto, who's still on level 1 and has a special ability called Absorption. Everyone who was summoned into this world has received a special ability, but Yuto's ability seems blamed. Apparently, he's just a sponge or something like that with a lame absorption ability. Just then, a guard barely escaped getting Eren Jaegered by Miyamoto's fierce slash. The old man commended Miyamoto, while the girls gathered around him to show us that this bro is a big deal. The abilities vary from person to person, and Miyamoto apparently got the heroic fortress ability. Yuto looked around only to find out that he had the worst ability among everyone. The other abilities can be classified into magic, martial arts, and recuperation techniques that strengthen the body. No wonder they were referred to as heroes. While everyone tried to use their abilities for the first time, Yuto was only able to pull this small rock towards him. He can only pull things towards him. Not women, things. Everyone looked down at Yuto and their eyes said enough about how Yuto is lame in this world as well. Yuto could read their eyes, so he clenched his fist and motivated himself that there might be some good use for this ability. Just then, Onizuka made the stupid mistake of defeating a random monster that appeared out of nowhere. This knight called him out as he warned everyone that stimulating a single monster would attract more. He wanted this only to be done when everyone was focused. Onizuka politely heard the argument and told him to shut up and don't ever talk to him like that again. The knight repeated that it was Onizuka's fault in the first place, but Onizuka responded that he only does what he wants to do. The knight then focused on the bigger issue that was heading their way. He informed all heroes to get ready as the monsters might arrive anytime now. Just as he finished the announcement, Yudo saw a herd of monsters heading their way. The heroes took their battle stance and the fight began. Miyamoto took charge and slashed 3 monsters with a single hit to assure everyone that they could handle it and that there was nothing to fear. He asked everyone to follow him, and the students decided to follow the lead of this cheap copy of Commander Irwin Smith. Miyamoto and Onizuka proved their points that the true monsters here are actually these two. The knights were also easily dealing with these monsters. The only one who seemed to fall behind was our protagonist Yuto. He knew that he was not like others, but he wanted to try his best. Back to the present, Yudo is taken out of the flashback by this monster who jumps at him from behind to finish our protagonist with a sneak attack. Yuto barely blocks the attack with his dagger and gets pushed back. He then gets ready to face the monster, but his luck runs out as the dagger shatters. Unfortunately, the monster has no sense of fair play. He charges at Yuto, who's crying like a little girl and panicking as if he's your favorite character and the author is Jage. Thankfully, a classmate of his chops the monster into a million pieces with her sword and saves Yuto. He then feels the fear in his chest and gets a harsh reality check that he's not cut out for this. He does not have a strong power to deal with this stuff. However, Yuto doesn't get the time to be depressed as he sees another monster charging towards Menes, who is busy healing an injured classmate. He calls out Menes to divert her attention towards the monster, but it's already too late as Menes is already in the monster's range. Seeing a pretty girl in danger brings out Yudo's main character features, and he, impulsively, uses his skill on the monster. He knows that he can't attack the monsters with his power, so he decides to move Menes far away from the trajectory of the monster's attack. That's the best he could do in this situation, and he succeeds. However, he fails to see the monster's next move. Menes is saved, but the monster's attention is on Yuto now, so before Yuto can react, the monster jumps at him with all his might. Yuto gets slashed badly by the monster, and he receives a fatal blow. Everything turns dark in front of him. He wonders what he is doing. He knew that people like him pretend to see nothing and try their best to survive. He has spent all his life like that, but now he tried to be a hero for the first time, and see where this got him. He's lying on the ground, unable to move, waiting to take his last breaths. He hears a distant voice of Menes asking everyone to wait. However, she gets told that they should leave Yuto here and move on. She states that Yuto protected her, so she can't just leave him behind. They tell her that he is cursed now and is beyond healing. Miyamoto thinks that Yuto might have been cursed by the monster. However, that knight who got clapped by Onizuka states that maybe Yuto has been cursed since the beginning. If his doubt is true, he suggests everyone leave Nakatani behind. Miyamoto tells Menes that he understands her feelings, but since the wound cannot be healed, they should leave him behind as they can't stay here forever. Everyone seems to agree with Miyamoto and how they should leave Yuto behind. Menes reminds them that Yuto is their friend and they should talk like this about him. However, she gets interrupted by Onizuka, who feels insulted by being associated with a weakling like Yuto. He states that it's Yuto's fault for ending up in this situation. Yuto can see their inhumane eyes and disgusting words about how he's miserable and incompetent. It's as if they are glad that they won't have to see Yuto's face again. Meanwhile, Menes is crying while trying her best to heal Yuto. She's continuously apologizing to him, while Yuto is wondering why everyone is acting this way when all he did was save Menes. Menes blames herself for not being able to heal Yuto, so they won't leave him behind. Miyamoto sees an injured classmate on his dying breath and thinks that it's alright. He then sees a female cute classmate crying, and immediately, his thirsty and desperate side takes over him as he grabs Menes and commends her for already doing so much for them. He hugs her while telling her that she must survive for Yuto's sake now. Another girl takes the crying Menes away, and now Yuto is lying there alone, with Miyamoto standing above. Miyamoto bends down to say to Yuto's face that he has been useless until his very end. Not only that, but he also hurt their precious healer, so he hates trash like Yuto. Bro seems to not understand that Yuto actually saved Menes's life, but this only shows Miyamoto's personality. Therefore, he wants Yuto to suffer as much as possible before he finally takes his last breath. Uncle Knight Commander then calls out Miyamoto, saying that he shouldn't get so close to Yuto as he might also get cursed. Miyamoto apologizes and claims that he wanted to say his final goodbye to their good classmate. Yuto can hear them, so he's shocked and traumatized at seeing how his classmates are serious about leaving him behind. Miyamoto is even getting praised for how kind and considerate he is. Right now, Yuto can't care about that because his throat is burning and it's becoming harder for him to breathe. He can't even move his body slightly now. He's shocked at the couldn't-care-less look on the faces of everyone around him and realizes that they are going to let him die for real. Just then, Onizuka approaches Miyamoto and tells him that a brilliant idea just popped up in his brain. If he has a brain, though, Miyamoto tries to stop him, saying that he shouldn't get closer to curse Yuto, but Onizuka tells him that he will do whatever he wants. He then looks down at Yuto while slamming his fists together, disappointed at the fact that even someone like Yuto is a hero. He decides that Yuto should finally prove useful for once by becoming an experience points for Onizuka. While Yuto wishes that Onizuka doesn't come any closer to him, the classmates try to stop Onizuka. However, they only put as much effort as Messi has put into learning English to say bad boys. Yuto begs his body to move as he is in grave danger. Onizuka grabs Yuto with his left hand and raises him to the height that should be perfect to blow him, as in send him flying. Yuto panics as he wishes for a way out. He repeats to himself that he doesn't want to die, not before he witnesses Luffy finding One Piece. Just then, a voice appears in his head and suggests Yuto use his powers. Yuto is confused, so the voice repeats that if Yuto doesn't want to die, he should use his power. Yuto is still confused as his power is not strong enough to do anything right now. However, he wonders if he should still try it. It would be crazy if he beats Onizuka with this power. Even if he doesn't, at least he will have something to laugh about in the afterlife. Yuto tries his one last desperate attempt to save his life and extends his hand at Onizuka's face. Onizuka sees Yuto's hand moving, so he wonders what he's up to now. Before he could react, a strange wind covers both Onizuka and Yuto. Everyone is surprised to see this out of nowhere. Menes, who's out in the back, gets closer to see what's happening near Yuto. She sees all the knights and her classmates shocked at something. That's because they are witnessing a strange sight. Onizuka is at his knees while Yuto is standing there as if nothing happened. Onizuka is super angry as he yells at everyone not to come closer to him. With a hand on his face, he realizes that he did not receive a fatal blow, but he's confused as to what that was. Even more confused is Yuto, who's wondering what he just did. At least his body is free to move now. He doesn't have time to look for answers because this guy with the Guinness World Record for the worst haircut is charging at him with all his might while saying that Yuto's life has no value, so he should become his experience points now. Yuto closes his eyes as it would be much less scary if he doesn't have to see that disgusting haircut. He then slowly opens his eyes and is surprised to see that he's easily blocking Onizuka's punch. The strong and powerful Onizuka has turned into some corn-addicted loser with physical strength comparable to a Reddit modder. Uncle Knight, Miyamoto, and everyone else are stunned to see the god of ogres, Onizuka, getting blocked with ease. Yuto wonders how he managed to pull this off, so the voice returns and informs him that this is his original power, absorption. While Yuto pushes Onizuka away, the voice informs him that he has absorbed the skill of the god of augurs. Onizuka is irritated at how Yuto was hiding his true power and pretending to be a little fly only so he can make fun of him. This has further ignited Onizuka's motivation to end Yuto. However, Yuto has no plans of returning to the lobby with a KD of less than 1. And he doesn't want this guy with his weird haircut to cause harm to him, so Yuto decides to counterattack. Yuto takes a step behind, dodges Onizuka's attempt, and grabs him. He then slams Onizuka into the wall while telling him to shut up. Getting beaten up by someone like Yuto has caused a tremendous fall in Onizuka's aura points. Uncle Knight then acts cool by laughing and praising Yuto for being so powerful. He didn't expect Yuto to have a power that could rival Onizuka, but now that he has seen it, he couldn't praise Yuto enough. Yuto then hears an invitation from the voice calling him somewhere, so Yuto takes his balls out of Uncle Knight's mouth and reminds him that it's creepy how he's trying to get on his good side after he was going to leave him to die. Yuto is tired of getting his boots licked by Uncle Knight, so he starts walking away. Whenever there's a conflict, a random NPC with a main character syndrome tries to jump in and take charge of the situation, even though he's the kind of guy that's on the bottom of a kidnapper's list. Miyamoto tries to stop Yuto, saying that he won't let Yuto do as he pleases. Yuto already knows that Miyamoto's personality is just as disgusting as Onizuka's hairstyle, so he leaves him on read. Minace then calls him out, and since she's the only one that was bothered with leading Yuto behind, he turns around to look at her one last time before walking away. Miyamoto then asks Minace to take care of Onizuka, and then approaches Knight Commander to share his thoughts. He states that letting Yuto free is a dangerous move since he has the power to heartlessly beat Onizuka like his meat. Miyamoto predicts that Onizuka will become their dangerous enemy soon. Therefore, he announces what he's going to do the next time he sees Nakatani Yuto. Meanwhile, Yuto is walking barefoot in this cold cave, wondering how long he has been walking. Luckily, he hasn't come across any monsters on his way. Just then, the voice reveals that it's because he already took care of the monsters. Yuto then sees the sight of monsters being taken care of, and it isn't as relieving as it sounds. The voice then asks Yuto to hurry up and come see him. Across the piles of monster bodies is a creepy and scary gate, the kind of gate no soul-leveling fan would like to cross unless he's Sung Jinwoo. But since this is Yuto's second chance at life, he has all the courage he needs to pass through this gate. Yuto hesitates to go through the door, but the voice tells him that he should come inside. The door has already been unlocked, so all Yuto needs to do is pull it. Meanwhile, there's a tense atmosphere among the heroes, so this girl with the Halloween costume highlights how the air is gloomy in here. She thinks that Yuto must have come across the monsters by now and dealt with them at this point. She wonders what the matter is with that dungeon and asks Uncle Knight if it is the most dangerous place in the territory. The girl's confidence worries everyone, so they ask Knight Commander if that's true. He reveals that the dungeon where Yuto went is indeed classified as the forbidden area of special grade. He asks Akane Sadi, the girl with a questionable costume, about how she knew that the dungeon was dangerous. Akane refuses to answer. At this point, we are introduced to Akane's special ability, Observation. This ability allows her to know the purpose behind thoughts and hidden intentions. Akane then approaches Menace and tells her that she doesn't need to worry about Yuto. She reminds Menace that she already did what she could for Yuto, but since he wasn't ready to listen to anyone, she shouldn't think about him. Miyamoto gets triggered at hearing this and yells at how Yuto, without any authorization, decided to selfishly leave. This is the first time Miyamoto's words were ignored, so he's super frustrated, to the point where he looks constipated. Akane then states her thoughts that everyone should be free to do whatever they want. Miyamoto gets angry at Akane, and when he turns his head to give her a creepy death stare, he notices the barrier that is forming between him and the other heroes. While Miyamoto panics, he hears a loud noise from behind. Onizuka is punching the wall and cursing himself for not being powerful enough to defeat Yuto. He yells about how he will surely take his revenge the next time he sees Yuto. By the way, you could tell Menace is an excellent healer as she healed Onizuka's hairstyle as well. Other heroes talk about how Onizuka is acting like a spoiled baby. Some of the heroes even think that Yuto might be stronger than Miyamoto. Menace looks back at the dungeon and hopes that Yuto is still alive. Akane notices and giggles as she states that it would be funny if Yuto is still alive in this dungeon that looks like it must have a demon king in there. Back to our rough and tough protagonist, Yuto is slowly pulling the door while wondering what he might find inside. As he enters through the door, he sees a long passage leading to the other end of this great hall. Yuto wonders where he is right now, as this seems more like a castle than a dungeon. While thinking about how this place is cold and stinky, Yuto feels the chills. He's a bit scared, but is not going to show the fear on his face. Just then, the voice tells him not to be afraid and to get close to him. The voice isn't coming from his head now, it's coming from the other end of these stairs. He remembers how everyone other than Menace has already given up on him, and he doesn't have a place to go back to. Therefore, he begins his hiking journey on these stairs that are equivalent to One Piece's episodes. Yuto realizes that all he can do right now is go forward. He finally reaches the top and sees the person whose voice he has been hearing. Surprisingly, that person is a girl. Not just a girl in her birthday suit. She greets Yuto saying that she has been waiting for him. She is glad to finally meet her one and only hope. Yuto immediately covers his eyes, apologizing and saying that he didn't see anything. The girl has no idea why he's apologizing, so she continues saying that it took a lot of time for her hope to finally appear. She reveals that she knows Yuto is from another world. It was disgraceful how Yuto was betrayed by his comrades in an unknown world. She tells Yuto that she's sorry that he went through all that. Yuto then thanks her for saving his life. She tells him that she only gave him a little push and that the one to rescue Yuto was Yuto himself. He still thanks her, saying that he wouldn't be here if not for her, but the girl assures him that his HP won't drain to zero because of how powerful his ability is. She then gets straight to the point and asks Yuto if he would like to join her. Yuto asks her what she means by that, so the girl reveals her ulterior motive. She tells him that she needs his help for revenge against the Empire. Yuto is shocked to hear that she's actually asking him to revolt. The girl states that this Sint Empire named Valencia is the place where Yuto was summoned, and the empire that abandoned Yuto and tried to take his life is her enemy, and she has to destroy this empire. Yuto is still trying to absorb this new information. She asks Yuto if he doesn't feel hatred towards the empire. Yuto looks back at everything he went through in the first chapter and realizes that denying his hatred towards the empire and heroes would be a plain lie. A bigger lie than "nah, I'd win." That being said, the girl states that this hatred makes them both comrades. She then reveals her name, that she's Nelia. For some reason, Nelia has something poking out of her chest. A singular thing, not plural. Yuto tells his name to her, so Nelia replies that it's a lovely name and that she will remember it. Yuto has a million questions in his mind, such as who this Nelia girl is or why she wants the revenge, and what this place is. Before he could ask, Nelia herself reveals that she's a demon. Yuto's flabbers are gasted at hearing this, and he panics as the sudden urge to take revenge for his family rises in him. However, he then realizes that he's not Tanjiro, so he asks what she means by that. Nelia elaborates that she's the daughter of the Demon King, the one who used to be the king of this land. She informs Yuto that this place used to be the real capital of the demons for more than hundreds of years. There was a city here where the moon and stars shined beautifully. The name of this capital was Lunaria, which was a paradise created by her father for the demons. Even different races of demons helped each other and lived together in this peaceful city without any conflicts. Her father used to say that the Lannisters always pay their debts. Her father used to say that everything is for the peace of demons. A beautiful city that all races can be proud of. However, their beautiful paradise was destroyed in one night. Her father immediately rushed to the balcony to see what was happening. The sight he saw that day was awful, a worse sight than Boku no Pico. The Valencia Empire attacked them and did everything they desired. They destroyed their paradise in one night. However, their barbarism didn't stop at the capital. They took the surviving demons as slaves, and each slave met a tragic end. Eventually, the truth was revealed. However, Valencia twisted the truth and told the world that the demons were savages and cannibals. As the saying goes, the winners decide the story of the war. Valencia told whatever heroic story they wanted to. Nelia then adds that demons are a subrace like beastmen and fairies, so it isn't in their nature to attack humans. On the contrary, most of the demons were kind to humans, but the humans took advantage of them. She then tells him about herself, that her power is sealed, and she's trapped in this place. She finds it funny that she still wishes to create another Lunaria in this place. Her wish is to revive Lunaria so the demons can feel peace again. For that, she intends to gather the demon brothers and sisters. She knows that Yuto must be thinking that she's lying. She would obviously defend demons since she is one herself. However, Yuto interrupts her and claims that he believes her. He wholeheartedly believes her, just like he believes that Eren did nothing wrong. That's because she saved him. She's more trustworthy than the Empire, who was okay with leaving him behind. He wants to believe in the words of his savior. He extends his hand towards Nelia, saying that he will help her. After all, he doesn't have a place to stay or anything, so Nelia will be his guide, and he will be her comrade. He then remembers that Nelia is trapped, so she can't shake his hand. He then asks what they need to do first now that he has agreed to help her. Nelia decides to reveal their plan to him first. She tells him that they need to gain enough power to defeat the Empire. It would require resistance and allies. Yuto asks Nelia if she has any friends, so Nelia gives a relatable response, saying no. She has been trapped here for 400 years, so it was kind of hard for her to make friends. She tells him that they need to break the seal curse engraved on her that can only be released by someone with a powerful dispelling ability. Yuto has just remembered that Nelia is still in her birthday suit, so he covers his eyes like a good gentleman. Nelia then states that she wants Yuto to gain the ability and power of the daughter of the Demon King. Yuto wonders how he can acquire it, so they both state the answer in sync: absorption. However, Nelia reveals that Yuto still doesn't have enough strength to manage her skill, which is why she wants him to get stronger. Suddenly, Yuto feels the ground shaking. He turns around and sees a large group of monsters. Nelia states that the monsters have woken up at the perfect time. She tells Yuto that in the dungeon, the monsters appear frequently, so this is kind of the new wave of enemies. She repeats that Yuto has a powerful ability that allows him to take others' powers, so she wants him to take her power. He's confused as he doesn't know what would happen to her after that. She assures Yuto that he doesn't need to worry about that because the one whose power is absorbed will only lose it for a certain time. This information relieves Yuto for a second until he realizes something scary. This must mean that the power he absorbed from Onizuka must have vanished. He checks his system window for it, and surprisingly, he still has that power. Milia then reveals that the power stays with the one who is absorbed. However, absorbing abilities alone is no good as all abilities have compatibility. Therefore, they need to polish Yuto so he can handle the abilities he acquires. She simplifies all that yapping session into one line that if there's one ability that everyone wants and one ability that can lead to plenty in the future, that's absorption. Just then, the monsters realize that the 2 minutes break is over, so they can attack Yuto now. They all charge at him, so Yuto panics and tells Milia that the monsters are coming. Milia asks Yuto to give her his hand and put it on her chest. While Yuto is still overwhelmed, Milia reveals that he needs all the power he can absorb, so this is the most direct way to do it. However, Yuto has become a statue for now because he has never gotten so touchy with a girl before. Even though Yuto himself has more elevation than Milia, he's still nervous. Milia reminds him that the monsters are about to devour him, so Yuto hesitantly grabs the little sponge so absorption can proceed. You know it's bad in a 2D world when one hand is occupied and there's no space for the second hand. Yuto starts absorbing her power and feels her ability entering his body. Yuto already has absorbed enough to inflate his tummy, but her power is far from over yet. In his mind, he feels like absorbing a tornado. Compared to this tornado, Onizuka's power was a minimal pressure, sneaky fart. Not only her power, but Yuto could also see Milia's memories, the tragic events that happened in front of her eyes, and then what those humans did to her until finally sealing her powers and trapping her in this dungeon. Tears start rolling down Yuto's eyes after seeing Milia's memories. Milia loses her power for a moment. Since her power is gone, the curse isn't needed. The curse disappears, so Milia finally gets up from the throne and thanks Yuto for freeing her. She congratulates him for the absorption and asks Yuto how he feels. Man, the author is determined not to change her birthday suit. Yuto is barely keeping the magical power inside him as he keeps flowing out of every hole, the pore of his skin. Milia calms Yuto down, saying that he can take his time to learn to control this much magical energy. Yuto, who is now a bit scared, checks his skills, and now he has a magical enhancement, magical power, and black burial. Wait, what's the last one? Milia says that all these abilities are useful for Yuto. Now then, the monsters are here, so Milia tells Yuto to step forward and kick those monsters away. Yuto tells her that he still can't control the magical energy, so Milia grabs his hand and then hugs him while saying that she is with him. Yuto, you lucky beach. Us guys are simple, one hug and a line of support, and Yuto is ready to deal with not just these monsters, but even Godzilla can join now. Yuto steps forward and gets ready to deal with all these monsters while Milia says that one magical word to him, Tataka. While Yuto is destroying the monsters like Jeej destroys your favorite characters, Milia tells him how he's a special one. The one who doesn't have to worry as long as he has this ability. He can have as many abilities as he wants. He can have everything in this world in the palm of his hand. Little by little, Yuto is getting a hang of his newly acquired abilities. The Black Burial allows him to manipulate shadows, whereas he can make up for the lack of muscle strength with God of Ogre's strength. He mixes the two and crushes the monster to absorb its ability. Milia smiles as Yuto is finally understanding how to use different abilities together. Yuto finally deals with the last monster and then drops to the ground after this tiresome fight. Milia praises him as there's no sign of any remaining monsters now. She then asks Yuto to show her his new refreshed ability window. Yuto has acquired Flash, Hard Claw, Thunderbolt, and Gale. Yuto tells her that he tried to absorb as many as possible, while Milia is glad that Yuto's magic power is able to control these abilities without any problem. She then explains to Yuto about the 4 new abilities. Hard Claw fires powerful blades that can split the sky and scrap the ground, just like Sukuna, who forgot about it since the Heian era and then used it to split Gojo. The Flash illuminates even the depths of an abyss. It might even light up the dark future that awaits you. Meanwhile, Lightning unleashes unstoppable lightning. Finally, Gale is like a tornado that can act as both a spear or a shield, depending on how Yuto uses it. Milia reveals that all these abilities are on par with the God of Ogre's ability. Yuto is surprised to hear that he has acquired abilities equal to 4 Onizuka. She then hugs Yuto and suggests continuing like this so they can get strong soon and destroy the Empire. She tells him that he still needs more abilities, so he doesn't feel contented just yet. However, the hug gave Yuto a literal shock, and he's reminded that this beach still isn't wearing anything. He hesitantly asks Melia if she would kindly put something over now. Melia wonders why Yuto is asking her something that has nothing to do with this situation, so Yuto tells her that he doesn't know where to look. He then politely warns her that she might catch a cold, so Melia finally decides to put something on. She draws a circle above her head and suddenly, a black cylinder encloses her. Melia is finally in some clothes. She apologizes as she realizes that it is wrong not to wear anything. 400 years of prison has dulled her senses. She proudly asks Yuto if these clothes are good enough. Yuto wants to tell her how there's so much fabric, yet the purpose of that fabric isn't fulfilled. However, he decides to just thank her and get it over with. She then starts walking away while telling Yuto that monsters won't be appearing here anymore. Yuto reminds her that exit is the other way. However, Melia states that they aren't heading towards that exit. As they are walking together, Melia explains that the dungeon has multiple entry and exit points. If they exit through the same point Yuto entered, they will find themselves in the middle of the Empire. That's why they need to use a different route. Among those, she finds this one the most convenient. Yuto asks how this one is the most convenient, so Melia points towards that scorpion-like monster and reveals that this route has the most powerful monsters. More than the ones Yuto fought earlier. Yuto understands that she wants him to absorb strong abilities. The monster notices them and charges straight at them. Melia warns Yuto about the incoming attack, so Yuto takes his battle stance. He evades the attack by jumping upwards using the Gale ability. He's impressed with the convenience of Gale. He then uses a Thunderbolt to take down the monster. Yuto is now curious about what kind of ability he will absorb from this scorpion. He's starting to enjoy this stuff. Just then, Melia calls out Yuto to remain on guard. The scorpion penetrates the ground with its tail, and it emerges right below Yuto. He barely blocks the attack, but the impact was enough to push him back. Yuto wasn't expecting this monster to do long-range attacks. Yuto uses Gale to make sure he isn't slammed into the wall, and using the same ability, he bounces back towards the monster to steal his power before he goes for the second attack. Yuto gets closer to the monster and uses Absorption on it. Now then, it's time for the counterattack. Yuto uses the Ore Formation ability, and a huge spike appears from below that gives the monster a Drake experience. Yuto then acknowledges that this monster is indeed stronger than the ones before. Melia nods and gives him a warning that the upcoming monsters will be stronger than this one as well. She tells him that this road leads them to the Great Forest of Dingearth, which is just outside the Empire. Yuto asks more about the forest, so Melia reveals that it's a forest where demons used to hunt. She shares how her father loved hunting, so he built this secret passage for the royal family to hunt. Melia giggles while saying that it was tough for her father when this secret was found out by her mother. Suddenly, the worst memory of the hunted king pops up in her mind as she remembers how brutal her father was, Aaron Yavard. She stops talking and continues to walk. Yuto tries to comfort her, but Melia tells him not to worry as she's tired of tears for the fast. They are already making their move for revenge on the Empire, so she's sure that it will help her mother and father to rest in peace. Yuto stays silent as he feels bad for Melia. He wants to tell her that resentment consumes the heart. Yuto was summoned to this world by the selfishness of the Empire. He was scared of death and almost had a friendship with death. He was abandoned by the Empire and his worthless, pathetic classmates. That's what lit a fire in his heart. He doesn't want to think about it anymore. He has to get powerful, more powerful than all of time combined. If not, they would surely hunt him down. After fighting lots and lots of monsters, Yuto has reached level 196 with so many abilities on his system window now. He hasn't become familiar with all these abilities yet as he needs more time and practice. However, Melia praises Yuto for working so hard. Yuto tells her that he's only doing his best, and he also failed to absorb some of his abilities. Before he can complete his sentence, he faints and drops to the ground. Yuto has always lived pretending that he doesn't see anything wrong happening. It's easy that way. He could interfere, but that wouldn't change anything. Hypocrisy won't change anything. No matter how frustrating it might be for him, he always pretended that he didn't care, to justify his weakness. However, there are people who call out those who do wrong. One of them is Minnes, as even when Yuto ignored those bullies kicking that innocent student, she stepped up. Yuto wakes up from this dream and finds himself in the lap of Melia. She says good morning to him, while Yuto still feels a bit numb. He looks around towards the left, because it's dangerous at his right side, and sees a strange barrier. Melia reveals that this is a protective barrel made by the Black Funeral. The weak monsters around this barrier won't be enough to defeat Yuto, so Melia assures him that there's nothing to worry about. Yuto apologizes for fainting as he hasn't been able to sleep since he came to this dungeon. Melia tells him that he doesn't need to apologize. Also, he still cannot fully control the magic conversion ability. Once he does, he won't require any sleep. Yuto is surprised to hear that he wouldn't even need something as basic as sleep. Melia confirms that it is true as long as he doesn't run out of mana. Yuto thinks back to how he used to play games all night and would get scolded by sensei for sleeping in class. He wishes that he had this ability in the other world. Melia gets up and explains that magic conversion makes the magic return to his body. She further explains that the magic power supplements the energy needed to keep him awake and satisfied. Yuto finally understands how it works, and he could not be more amazed. Yuto reminds himself that absorption increases the abilities, but it wouldn't make sense if he doesn't understand the proper use. Just then, he hears Melia frowning over something. He walks up to her and asks what she means by no. Melia tells him that the bridge that was supposed to be on this route is gone. Yuto checks the hanging ropes and realizes that seeing how rotten it is, the bridge must be broken for a long time. Melia wonders what they should do as they are so close to the exit. Yuto wonders the same, as well as they aren't dumb enough to go to the bottom without seeing what it has. Melia has decided what to do. She grabs Yuto and jumps off the cliff. Yuto is taken by surprise, and by the time he sees what's happening, they are already flying. While hugging him tightly, Melia explains that it's the only way they can cross without a bridge. Yuto commends her as this way is definitely faster than walking through a bridge. Yuto is lying on the ground asking Melia to at least warn him before doing such a thing the next time. Melia, who's comfortably sitting on her soft landing, sarcastically replies that Yuto didn't panic as much as she expected. Poor guy really thought that his days were up. He then looks around and sees a pile of bones. While Yuto is still panicking at seeing so many bones together, Melia thinks that for some reason it would make him feel better to hear that these are all human bones. Yuto did not need this information. He then calms himself and asks what this place is. Melia looks around, and after analyzing the destroyed weapons, bloodstains on the floor, and the footprints, she concludes that this must have happened after the war. Also, she notices something strange about that armor. The guy whose bones are still standing up with the support of his sword is wearing the armor that belongs to the Empire. Yuto asks her if she's sure about that. Melia claims that she will never forget the armor worn by people who destroyed her paradise. Yuto gets worried because these bones might belong to his classmates. He's not worried about all of them, but Mine's. However, Melia continues that these bones have been here for more than 100 years. The deterioration of the ornaments and the blood indicates that they have been here for a long time. She points to a skull, saying that it's too clean for a recent fight, so maybe the skin wasn't peeled, but it just melted. Suddenly, the ground starts shaking again, and Melia giggles as if she was expecting something like this. Before Yuto could say that they shouldn't stay there, a dragon appears in front of them. With a smile on her face, Melia states that they ended up falling into the nest of a dragon. Melia is proud of her decision to jump. Melia then gives Yuto a brief tips and tricks session. She warns him that the skull dragons are on a completely different level than the monsters Yuto fought earlier. However, that means that there's a high probability of Yuto getting a very powerful ability from him. Yuto thanks her for the warning, as he thought this extremely dangerous dragon with a roar strong enough to give him chills was just a cute puppy. Melia tells him not to worry, as Yuto is still far stronger than him. Yuto looks above at the dragon heading his way while thinking about Melia's words that he's still strong enough to defeat him. However, the huge size and powerful aura of this dragon is making him doubt himself. As the monster gets closer, Yuto realizes that it's impossible for him to defeat this dragon, this true monster. He gets terrified to the point where he might start leaking. Just then, he remembers how bravely Menes dealt with those bullies. She called them out without any fear in her eyes, while he turned his back like a coward. He wonders why he gets so scared over such tiny stuff. Yuto doesn't want to be a coward anymore. Even by turning his back, he ended up almost losing his life in this world. Therefore, he has learned that he can't change the results unless he takes action. He convinces himself that he is strong, because he did save Menes back then. He fought with a group of monsters alone. He has got his motivation as he feels that he can do it. Using all his abilities, he can defeat this monster. Yuto attacks the monster that is about to devour him. A blast occurs as a result, and as the smoke clears, Yudo wonders if this attack was good enough. Unfortunately, the monster is still standing unfazed while Yudo couldn't dodge him in time, and his left side is giving us an X-ray view of his body. Yudo was not expecting this reward for his bravery. The corpse dragon begins charging at Yudo for the next attack, while Yudo is panicking about how he knows he's not a very nice person from the inside. But he never expected his inside to be this disgusting. He has no doubt now that this here is his end. The dragon attacks Yuto again by slamming him into the ground and saving time to bury him later. Melia is watching this fight with an unbothered look as she expected Yuto to face this much difficulty. She then smiles as she sees Yuto in the air after dodging the attack. Despite being driven to a corner, Yuto is refusing to give up. However, Yuto still knows that he doesn't stand a chance against this monster. His legs are shaking with the pain as he barely stays on feet, watching the dragon right on top of him, preparing to launch a Kamehameha from his mouth. Yudo is hurting and Yudo is scared. The dragon launches the Kamehameha and shatters everything that comes in contact. This should be enough to take down Yuto, however, as the smoke clears, Yuto is still standing on his feet as he blocks the attack using Black Funeral. Yudo is hurting, Yudo is scared, but Yudo is not ready to die in a place like this. He uses Black Funeral to stop the bleeding and numbs the pain with Sensorial Block. He attacks the monster with Thunderbolt, followed by Burning Flame, followed by Ice Crystal. He knows that he cannot fight for long in this condition, so he needs to think of something effective. A deadly wound that could take this monster down. However, Yudo is shocked to see the dragon completely unfazed and scratchless after all his attacks. Melia is still watching from the sidelines as she explains to us that the Skull Dragon is also known as the Immortal Dragon because of its immortality characteristic. It is a type of forbidden class creature that regenerates itself with an enormous amount of magical power. Melia knows that this is the type of forbidden creature that cannot be defeated by a Knight of the Empire, but she has high hopes for Yuto. The dragon tries again with a Kamehameha, but Yuto makes a clay doll to take the impact. Melia is impressed with Yuto's improvisation. Before you guys start thinking about other uses of clay doll, we move on to the next panel where Yuto uses Ore Formation and Explosive Mix to attack the monster. Yuto is now attacking the monster first, and then, while it is still regenerating, Yuto uses that window to land another hit. He gets closer to the dragon and decides to take his ability once and for all. He uses Absorption at the monster and then immediately pushes himself away before the dragon attacks him. Yuto still can't let his guard down. He then checks his abilities to see if it was a success or not. Yuto has gained the Erosive Flame, so he smiles as it's time to give this dragon a taste of his own medicine. He launches the Kamehameha on the dragon, and even though it hits the monster directly, Yuto knows that he still needs more. Yuto decides to launch another Kamehameha, and then another, and another. Yuto is determined to get the monster weak in his knees tomorrow with all these shots. He isn't stopping, not before he's sure that the monster is no more. He is ready to give his all. The monster is screaming in pain, but Bro is refusing to take his last breath. Finally, the monster is defeated, so Melia congratulates Yuto for actually defeating the monster. With this victory, he has now gained the ability of immortality. Suddenly, Yuto, who was spitting blood, starts to heal. The bitten part of his body starts regenerating, and all the wounds disappear without a trace. Unlike Yuto, Melia isn't surprised, as this is exactly what one would expect from a forbidden ability. The immortality of the Skull Dragon regenerated its body as long as it had magical power in it. Melia then states that she forgot to tell Yuto that the Skull Dragon is a type of taboo. Yuto wonders what she means by that. Melia explains that taboo is a generic term for creatures with immense power beyond human control. In simple terms, Yuto has obtained special powers. She then tells Yuto that it's time to leave. The Great Dingrith Forest is right ahead of them. Yuto is now heading out of the dungeon with a new special power. Back to the Valencia Empire, the group of heroes are training vigorously. Uncle Knight is observing the training session, and Knight approaches him and talks about how the heroes are getting good control over their abilities. Knight Commander replies that he was skeptical at first, but he misjudged them. They are not as trash as the England football team. Miyamoto is getting really good with the explosive bullet ability. He can now destroy big boulders with a single hit. Everyone stops for a second to hop on Miyamoto's stick and praise him. Miyamoto has made a giant hole in that rock, and judging by the remarks, these male classmates want Miyamoto to do the same to them. Knight Commander, who is far more experienced at bootlicking than these students, approaches Miyamoto and commends him for being such a good magician, on top of his already great swordsman skills. He talks about how others are getting stronger as well. He has been looking forward to this. Miyamoto counterlicks the commander's boots by saying that the credit goes to the Empire's supreme leadership, so he's in their debt. The commander tells him that he doesn't have to be so modest. Just then, Onizuka punches the knight who is helping him with the training and breaks down his strong shield. The knight is grateful to the armor and the shield, otherwise he may have suffered serious injuries. Now that the physical training is over, Onizuka moves on to the yapping training as he begins yelling at everyone, asking if they want to get stronger or not. Miyamoto feels second-hand embarrassment and wishes that Onizuka would calm down a bit. Everyone finds him annoying and talks to his back about how he shouldn't boast like this after getting humiliated by Yuto. They laugh at him while saying that a stupid muscle-brained bug should shut up and focus on himself. Miyamoto hears them saying this stuff. Unfortunately, Onizuka hears them as well and grabs them by their mouth as they are talking about how they would have easily defeated Yuto. Onizuka raises them in the air and asks them to repeat their words. It isn't surprising for someone with this haircut to be dumb enough not to notice that he's holding their mouth, restricting them from speaking. A couple of knights try to stop Onizuka, saying that he shouldn't do this to his friends. However, Onizuka denies being their friend and asks the knights if they want to be next. He overwhelms them by asking if they also think that Onizuka is a bug. Miyamoto then steps in and asks Onizuka to stop this. He knows that Onizuka is frustrated, but he shouldn't take out his anger on others. With an evil grin on his face, Miyamoto tells Onizuka that he should save this anger for the one that he really wants to end. Onizuka clicks his tongue in frustration and walks away. The two guys thank Miyamoto for saving them from this Yankee. Meanwhile, everyone uses this opportunity to again ride Miyamoto. However, there's one person who seems disconnected from the rest. Minace. Akane notices Minace acting differently. She decides to grab Minace and scare her while saying that she should cheer up as well. Minace claims that she is fine. Everyone is trying their best, but for some reason she still feels a bit depressed. Moreover, she's sure that the one who feels the most pain right now is Yuto. She states that no matter what happens to him, she will always think of him as her friend. Therefore, she plans to heal Yuto the next time she sees him. She plans to get him back to their side. She feels depressed because she feels that she's falling behind. Akane tells Minace to chill as she's taking it way too seriously. Just then, two guys and a lady walk into the training area. For some reason, Akane gets on guard upon seeing them. The aesthetic 4-2 guy with 50% glasses greets the commander while commending the efforts of all the heroes. Uncle Knight is surprised to see Mr. Aesthetic Chancellor Dennis in here with Secretary Dahlia and Lord Roy. Dennis laughs at Commander Sig's reaction and then turns to Miyamoto, saying how they haven't seen each other since the summoning ceremony. While Miyamoto wonders what the Chancellor and Lord of the Army are doing here, Dennis asks Miyamoto if he would accompany them as they have been given a royal decree. All the heroes gather in the meeting room. Dennis starts talking and apologizes first for coming so early. He then asks everyone if they remember the reason why they were all summoned to this world. One of them replies that it's because the Empire is in some crisis. Dennis nods and then states that he has received direct orders from the king regarding that crisis. He wants to exterminate the remnants of the demons on the front lines. Miyamoto asks what they are going to do about the dungeon that still isn't captured. Dennis replies that it isn't necessary anymore as they have already acknowledged the power of heroes. Any more skill testing would be a waste of time. Miyamoto then asks Dennis about the demons. Dennis explains that demons are actually man-eating barbarians. They are the demi-humans who devour innocent lives with glowing red ketchup. Glowing red eyes. Demons are mankind's enemy. Upon hearing demi-humans, the students start talking among themselves how demi-humans are still half-humans, so they would technically be doing war crimes against people. Others think that demi-humans aren't any different from monsters, so they shouldn't think much about them. While the opinion is still divided, Dennis reminds them that this is a royal order, so he would appreciate it if the heroes accept it kindly. Miyamoto takes charge and accepts the order since it is a direct one of the kind. He reminds everyone that the reason they were called to this land as heroes is because the Empire is in crisis, so it's natural for them to deal with that crisis. All the NPCs agree with Miyamoto, and now the majority has the same opinion, that they should just do what they have to. Dennis compliments Miyamoto and thanks him for his spirit. Dennis then moves on, so with a snap, Secretary Dahlia portrays the picture of the abandoned castle that is being used by the remnants of the demons as their base. In the Dingrith Forest, there used to be a prosperous demon city named Argonum. Melia tells Yuto about Argonum, and how when she was young, she heard from her father that demons who left Lunaria lived in that castle. Yuto finally understands that this means that there might be some surviving demons in there. Just then, Melia remembers something and turns to Yuto. She then casts a magic circle around him and dresses him in a goated outfit. A pure main character outfit. Would love to have passed some insulting remarks, but this is too good. Melia tells him that he can't wear torn clothes forever, so this is a gift from her. He thanks Melia when she says that Yuto is into appearances after all, when in truth, her appearance back then was just too much for a virgin guy. They have finally reached the exit, so Melia turns around and thanks him again for freeing her so she can go outside. She can finally fulfill the demon's long-cherished wish, so she grabs Yuto's hand and they head outside together. Both the heroes and Yuta are heading beyond the great forest of Dingrith to the demon city, Argonum. Melia asked her father about this castle when she was young, and her father told her that this castle is inhabited by demons who left Lunaria. As Yuto and Melia are walking towards the castle, they hope that there are still some survivors of demons in that castle. Yuto tells her that he hopes all the survivors are still there. Melia smiles as she states that they will be, she's sure of it. Yuto asks Melia how long it would take for them to reach the demon city. Melia reveals that if everything goes smoothly, they will be there after 3 days of walking. Yuto is glad that he has a lot of magical power, otherwise he wouldn't have managed to walk for 3 straight days. While they are still talking, a random NPC interrupts them and tries to land a surprise hit. However, they both easily dodge the attack. The NPC then expresses joy that he really found the vagabond hero. He shows them the wanted poster of Yuto and asks Yuto to kindly give him a head. Give him his head so he and his crew can enjoy the rest of their lives without any money problems. Meanwhile, at the castle, some demon children are playing around at the entrance. They notice Ryan Onichin coming back with a bag in her hand. They are happy to see her. Ryan then walks to the gate, and before opening it, she announces her name, so no one gets worried or panics. She enters the castle and greets everyone with a bright smile on her face. She announces to all the children that she got a lot today, so she's going to prepare the food right away. While Ryan is distributing food to everyone, the old lady apologizes to him for how Ryan has to look for food for everyone for the sake of demons. Ryan tells Auntie not to mind as she's doing what she wants to do. Just then, a little demon asks for seconds while the old lady tells Ryan that she doesn't know how to repay her kindness. Ryan insists that they don't owe her anything because the demon race and the dragon race are allies. The old lady talks about how after the tragedy, the Empire's hand reached out to the demon city immediately. These demons barely survived, and they can only live secretly in the abandoned castle. They can't go out in the forest, nor do they have any strength left, so she can't thank Ryan enough. Ryan states that demons treated her well when she was a child, so she knows that demons are not a race that hurts others. She promises to help them until the day the world understands that demons are actually kind. Just then, a little boy calls Ryan. Everyone's attention turns to that little boy as he hesitantly tells Ryan that someday he will become strong enough to be able to protect Ryan, so when he grows up, he promises to take care of her. Ryan pats his head as the little boy Argonum. Valencia has shaken heads with Paradise. The little boy has just pitched up in heaven. Ryan tells him that she will wait for the day when he becomes a strong and splendid adult. While the children ask Ryan to play with them, the old lady is surprised that the dragon race still honors the alliance. Just then, Ryan hears someone at the door. It's time for Mr. Wright to be back, so Ryan greets him and tells him that the food is still warm. However, the door opens and just the head of Mr. Wright falls inside the castle. Everyone panics at the dreadful sight of Mr. Wright's head, followed by some armed men. Miyamoto opens the door and asks if all of them are demons. The heroes enter through the door as Miyamoto tells everyone to silence the monsters that pose a threat to the Empire. He announces that they should exterminate each and every one of the demons in here. Ryan panics as the heroes start cutting unarmed innocent demons hiding peacefully. She tries to stop them, but the chaos spreads as everyone starts running around, yelling that the Empire has found them. The heroes are disappointed that 3 of these barbaric man-eaters are already finished off with such ease. They start making bets on who gets a higher kill count. While Ryan is traumatized at the sight of the boy's body who just promised to grow up and take care of her, she looks at his innocent, lifeless face while listening to these monsters talking about how they will get a double digit today. Ryan is infuriated as she charges straight at Miyamoto to finish off the one in charge first. However, Miyamoto easily blocks the attack with his sword and notices the horns on Ryan's head. Realizing that she's not a demon, Miyamoto announces that non-demons are not their target, so they shouldn't be harmed. Ryan is enraged as she wants the Empire to fork itself. She asks why they are doing this. She asks why the Empire is after the innocent lives. Miyamoto tells her that cannibal barbarians aren't innocent and that being alive is a sin in itself. Ryan doesn't understand what he means by this, but she doesn't have time to clarify because that one hero is about to end those children. The black-haired girl tells this crazy girl that she shouldn't go after children. But this crazy lady from the streets replies that she's going for the easy targets because she's smart. While she gets ready to swing her sword, she mocks the other girl, saying that it is because she's an idiot that she doesn't have a boyfriend. Just as the sword approaches the children, Ryan blocks the attack. She doesn't block it by stopping the sword, she takes the better approach and cuts off this crazy lady's arm altogether. No arm, no sword. She then hugs the children to calm them down, while the crazy girl is feeling 1% of the pain she deserves. Miyamoto approaches the girl and sees how she's losing a lot of blood. He tries to calm her down by saying that Menace will heal her right away. Ryan is not happy that they even got a healer in their group. Miyamoto then approaches Ryan and says that this act of Ryan will be considered an act of rebellion against the Imperial Army. He's irritated at how the monsters keep hurting humans to feel better. He announces that as a hero, he's going to show Ryan the consequences of her actions. Ryan is further agitated at how these barbarians call themselves heroes when they are the true monsters. Miyamoto's smile seems to acknowledge the fact that they are the real monsters. Meanwhile, Yuto is tired of all these bandits continuously trying to take them down. He asks Melia what's the deal with them. Just then, 2 more bandits interrupt them. Yuto is getting bored of these weaklings now. This half-pants, half-shorts bandit thinks that Yuto looks strong for the 2 of them, but the bald bandit in the toilet pose tells him that this is the perfect moment for them. They will have all the rewards for just the 2 of them. However, Yuto and Melia ignore them and move on. The bandits feel insulted and demand some attention, whereas Yuto and Melia are happy that the castle is finally in their view now. Yuto and Melia sigh and knock out the bandit rows with ease. They continue with their journey, and Yuto asks Melia what she plans to do if there really are survivors. Melia stops for a second, and then gets ready to reveal something crazy to Yuto. It doesn't seem that Melia has any peaceful plans. Melia congratulates Yuto as the journey is finally over, and they have arrived at the demon city of Argonum. She asks Yuto to speed up, saying that there might be people who are starving at this moment. As a member of the royal family, she can't overlook this. Yuto smiles as he sees how excited Melia is. They both rush to the castle hoping to see some survivors. However, they hear some strange noises, so without wasting any second, they run towards the castle. Meanwhile, Ryan is heavily injured right now, while all the demon children are standing behind her. Despite being so injured, Ryan refuses to let these heroes claim any other innocent life, not until she's alive. Miyamoto states that they all are a bunch of monsters that harm people. It's on him to take revenge for all the lost lives, the pain and the sorrow, so he announces that he will destroy them all with his sword. Ryan uses all her remaining strength to get up while calling him out for saying such idiotic things and making lame excuses. While Miyamoto prepares to land a multiple sure-hit attack to take out everyone with a single hit, Ryan charges at Miyamoto to attack him before he does, while saying that the ones who are playing with innocent lives are the Empire. Miyamoto uses his right hand to launch an explosive bullet at Ryan while making sure his left hand remains up. Ryan is pushed back as she barely avoids the magic attack, while Miyamoto claims that he won't claim their lives for his selfish desires. The attack is ready as he claims that he will bury them all for the sake of justice. In their final moments, helpless Ryan hugs the children as there's nothing she can do now. With a creepy smile on his creepy face, Miyamoto tells him to die and launches the attack that took him so much time to prepare. One could have watched all episodes of One Piece during this time. Twice. He hits Ryan directly and a blast occurs. Miyamoto keeps smiling, but as the smoke clears, his smile starts fading. That's because his trump card, his strongest attack, was easily blocked by this Nakatani Yuto in an all-black suit. Everyone gets stunned for a minute. Yuto is the last person they expected to see here. Miyamoto seems to have lost his senses, as if his family has seen all those wild comments he has been writing from his fake Instagram account. The only one happy to see Yuto is Menace. However, a thunder passes through Menace out of nowhere. Not thunder, but it's Onizuka, who is more excited to see Yuto than Menace. He charges Yuto with his Superman punch, while saying that he's so happy that Yuto survived the dungeon. Now he can rightfully claim Yudo's life with his own hands and wash away the humiliation stain. Before Onizuka reaches Yudo, he uses Black Burial on his and slams him down like an annoying mosquito. The whole hall goes silent as everyone is trying to make sense of what just happened. Yudo breaks the silence and asks the heroes if they are responsible for these bodies lying around. After seeing what happened to Onizuka, no one dares to reply. After a long pause, Miyamoto asks Yuto why it concerns him since these demons are man-eating monsters and they are here to exterminate them. He tries to overwhelm Yuto by warning him not to get in his way. Ryan tries to deny Miyamoto's slander. Ryan tries to interrupt this guy, but like the own goals in this hero, Miyamoto is unstoppable. He mocks Yuto for thinking that this is the demon's original world. He mocks him for being one of the guys that feels sorry for bears and stuff. As always, Miyamoto says a sentence and Miyamoto glazing begins. He's the Bellingham of this story. He states that leaving wildlife like these demons would only increase the danger, so he calls Yuto a hypocrite for not seeing the reality. He points his sword towards Yuto and states that he's a dangerous person, so he will have to crush Yuto himself. Minis tries to stop Miyamoto, reminding him that Yuto is their classmate. She's so happy that Yuto is alive and they finally meet him, so Miyamoto shouldn't try to fight him now. However, Minis is stopped by a Khan who tells her that it should be fine. And regardless of that, Miyamoto isn't someone who would care about such things. Minis sees the excited look on Akane's face as if she knows something and wants to see what happens, so she silences herself. Yuto remains unbothered by a small fry like Miyamoto. Just then, Miyamoto charges at Yuto and tries to slash him with his sword. However, Yuto easily blocks the attack. Miyamoto tells Yuto not to get carried away just because he has beaten Onizuka. This time, he's going to make sure that a disease like Yuto is taken care of for good. As Miyamoto shows off his sword skills, the Miyamoto glazing begins again as his classmates cannot miss the opportunity to hop inside Miyamoto's undies. They talk about how Miyamoto's technique gets better each time they see it. They feel bad for Yuto because they don't want to go against Miyamoto ever. Miyamoto then uses an explosive bullet at Yuto, but Yuto uses the same stance for his counter. A blast occurs, but as the smoke clears, Yuto is still standing unfazed. Miyamoto asks Yuto why he's still taking a defensive stance and calls him a miserable guy. Minis is getting worried, so she asks Akane if she can intervene, but Akane tells him to look closely. She notices the expressions and how Miyamoto is giving his all while Yuto seems as uninterested as your cat. She's somewhat relieved now. Miyamoto asks him how he likes his strength. Yuto looks at Milia, and she nods while Miyamoto claims that he became stronger while Yuto was stubborn and left, so he should see what the power of a hero is. Turns out Yuto was only letting Milia check out Miyamoto's power, so she points at Miyamoto and tells Yuto that she doesn't need that. Upon hearing that Miyamoto is useless, Yuto throws the layer of garbage away with a single and minimal power hit. Just as Miyamoto takes the hit, he's stunned as his egoistic bum wasn't ready to be clapped by Yuto, who he thought was nothing compared to him. The egoistic Miyamoto, who always thinks that he's above others, is literally above others right now as he sees the demons and everyone below him while flying to the other side. Yuto then hits the overpowered MC emote after taking down the strongest hero. Now that Miyamoto is down, everyone starts retreating and running away. The brave heroes of the Empire start running away as soon as someone capable of fighting appears in front of them. People who can carry their supplies and injured should stay while the others should run as fast as possible. Yuto tries to chase them, but Milia stops him. She points at some of the heroes, including Minis, that have piqued her interest. She tells him to go after them because these guys have skills that are worthy of absorbing. Yuto walks up behind the Four Eyes girl and absorbs her skill. The heroes panic and start running away from Yuto. He then heads towards Yuto, who is healing the arm of that crazy bun girl. Unlike others, Akane and Minis didn't run away from him. Instead, Minis tells him with a smile that she just needs another minute to cure her, and then she will talk to him to catch up. However, Yuto extends his arm and absorbs Menace's skill. Akane is stunned as this is not what she was expecting. Crazy Bun Girl is panicking as her arm hasn't fully healed yet. Minis passes out as her ability has been absorbed. Yuto then uses his newly acquired healing magic skill and uses it on Bun Girl. In an instant, he heals her arm and then walks away. Akane looks at him with a bombastic side-eye while Yuto walks away. Meanwhile, the other students are trying to get Miyamoto and Onizuka on their feet before Yuto comes for them. However, they are both traumatized. Their dignity has been thrashed as they did not expect Yuto to bend them over. As Yuto walks back to Milia, Ryan charges at the escaping heroes while clicking her tongue in frustration. She yells at them to stop them from running away. Ryan tries to attack them, but the samurai girl blocks the attack with her sword. Ryan is frustrated at how these Imperials from the Empire take everything from them when they want to and run away when they find themselves in the slightest danger. She calls them a coward, which they surely are, but she's too exhausted to chase after them. Just as the heroes are about to leave, Ryan gets up to go after them again, but Yuto stops her. He states that the heroes have a better number today, so they should give up on fighting for now and focus on healing the injured demons. Yuto walks to Melia, who is checking every body to see if there's a slightest hope of treatment. She's closing the eyes of the deceased and paying her respect. Unfortunately, several demons lost their lives today. Melia states that only if her powers weren't sealed, she might be able to do something. However, she then realizes that even if she had her powers, the ones who passed away would not come back. Yuto looks at Melia's depressed face and decides that it's better to leave her alone for now. He then uses healing magic on the injured demons and gets praised by cute little demons. Ryan then turns to Melia and approaches her. She apologizes in advance if she's getting the identity of Melia wrong, but she still asks if Melia is the person Ryan thinks she is. However, as Melia turns around and looks at Ryan, her confusion fades away as her guess is right. She immediately drops to her knee and apologizes to Lady Melia. Everyone's attention is diverted to Ryan as Ryan regrets not being able to protect everyone. She starts crying as she blames herself for not stopping humans from claiming those innocent lives. However, Melia walks up to Ryan and grabs her hand to raise her up. Melia smiles as she mentions how Ryan is still a crybaby. However, seeing Ryan has made Melia conscious about her body because she feels that she didn't grow at all compared to Ryan. Melia then hugs Ryan and tells her that she did a great job. Also, she's glad that Ryan is here because she's not alone now. She thanks Ryan for doing so much for the demons. The two of them cry at this reunion after 400 long years while Yuto looks at them and realizes that he did choose the right side after all. Yuto, Ryan, Melia, and the remaining survivors do a proper burial to the deceased. Many demons are mourning over the tragedy as they have lost their loved ones. Just then, Melia raises her hand and tells all the graves to take a good rest. She walks closer to the grave that this boy is sitting by and states that they will take care of their regrets and carry their will now. She then asks Ryan if she can have a private talk with her. Ryan looks at the demons and then follows Melia and Yuto. While walking, Melia asks her about everything that took place after Melia was trapped. Just as the girls are about to gossip, Yuto interrupts them because he knows how long of a yapping session are these girly gossip. He asks Melia about the relationship she has with this girl with a horn. Melia realizes that she hasn't introduced them yet, so she tells him that this pretty girl who should not be your enemy is Ryan. Yuto then waits, but Melia has finished the introduction already. Yuto is confused because this intro was just as short as the list of girls interested in you. Negligible basically. Ryan has more social awareness than this pocket-sized princess, so she reveals that Melia and she are childhood friends. Melia then adds that the dragon race and demon race used to be allies once upon a time. Ryan shares that despite having a small population, the demon king Melf-Sam offered protection to them. The dragon race was targeted by many species because they didn't have enough numbers to retaliate or enough numbers to form an alliance with anyone. To protect each other from foreign enemies, they would move from one place to another. They would get attacked almost every single day. Even Ryan got so close to death, but she was luckily saved. Their strength ran out by living a life like this every day, but her father would try his best to keep Ryan's hope alive, so she remains patient. Soon after, a giant dragon approached them. The guy sitting on the dragon was King Melfs, who recognized the dragon race and saved them. He looked at them with kind eyes and offered them a place in his country. Melia was also with him at that time. The demons welcomed them with open arms. Not only that, but King Melfs gave this land to the head of the dragon tribe, Ryan's father. Her father ruled over this demon city, and both sides joined hands aiming for a world of peace. Ryan and Melia became friends as they were both rulers' children. Yuto can see why they are so close now. However, the royal capital fell soon after, and this time, the demons had to rely on the dragon race. This demon city temporarily became a refuge for the royal capital, but the Empire's hands started reaching this city as well. At that time, Ryan didn't have the strength to fight because of their small age, so the best she could do was run away amidst the confusion. She only returned to this land recently. Yuto asks where she stayed all this time, so Melia reveals that Ryan was in a dormant state. Yuto asks for more explanation, so Melia reveals that it is like a long hibernation, like the state you're in when a random person asks you English or Spanish. In this state, no magic power will leak out, so the chances of the enemy finding you are minimized. By the time Ryan returned, there were only young children and old people left in the city. Those who had the power to fight already suffered a defeat, so Ryan did what she could. Yuto is impressed with how Ryan managed everything on her own. She knows that she's still no match for heroes. Yuto looks down in shame as Ryan cries about how the heroes slaughtered innocent souls even though they did nothing to deserve this treatment. She then wipes her tears and focuses on the bright side that if Yuto and Melia hadn't arrived, everyone would have been enjoying with jujutsu sorcerers in heaven. Melia is glad that at least some of them survived. Now then, it's Ryan's turn to ask who this guy in the black suit is. Melia shares that he's Yuto. Once again, Melia fails to give a proper introduction, and this time, Yuto and Ryan aren't even surprised. Melia sighs as she's not some professional yapper like AOT haters who quit their jobs only to prove that AOT is not a masterpiece. She hands the mic over to Yuto, so he introduces himself. Yuto reveals that he was summoned to this world with the heroes, but he decided to part ways with them. If Ryan wants to know more details, she should buy the manga or watch our recap from the beginning. He makes it clear that he and the Empire are enemies right now, so Melia adds that this makes Yuto their ally. She asks Ryan if she noticed as well that Yuto is far stronger than all the other heroes. Ryan looks at the flashback of Miyamoto getting clapped, so she acknowledges that Yuto is indeed strong. Melia shares that Yuto is the one who broke her seal when they were alone in the dungeon. She's talking about the magic seal, just to be clear. She calls Yuto a demon hero because he's not an ordinary hero now. She then remembers something and states that she found a clue to counterattack. She asks Yuto about something he did earlier. Yuto raises his hand and summons demon minions. While the minions are busy with Labobo, Yuto shares that this skill is a bit unreliable, but the power of numbers has its own perks. Melia then states that the Empire was carrying some goods, so Yuto now understands why she asked him to summon these minions. They not only humiliated the heroes but also took their supplies. Yuto realizes that this summon skill, if used correctly, can be very fruitful in the future. Ryan then asks Yuto if he can actually steal skills, so Yuto replies that he can also steal the hearts of pretty ladies with horns. Sorry, he actually replies that the robbery is temporary, but then Melia completes the sentence by saying that he can use the skill permanently. Ryan is very impressed by this incredible power. The Empire didn't know about his skill, and they even called it an unlucky skill. That reminds Yuto of the first chapter. Everyone thought that this was just an ability to pull things closer, and compared to other skills like Ogre God, healing magic, and summoning, it seemed useless. Melia is the only one who knows the true extent of his power. Melia then tells Yuto to fight back against the Empire just like he did with all those groups on their way. The Empire has already issued a reward on his head, so it's only fair for Yuto to fight back. Yuto, Melia, and Ryan have tied up 3 NPCs and are interrogating them. Like a good NPC, they spill everything just after a few bruises. Turns out it was the Empire who issued a bounty on Yuto's head. The NPC becomes relatable for a second as he cries about the tough economy and how the loot from this route isn't enough to send his kids to school. That is why he went after Yuto. Melia asks Yuto what he thinks should be done about this. Yuto is a bit confused. Meanwhile, at the Holy Empire of Valencia, heroes are frustrated. Everyone, including Miyamoto, is a bit frustrated and confused after the beating they just received. In the same castle, a party is going on in the other room. Wait, that's not a party, it's the treatment room where heroes who got their skills absorbed are lying down. Onizuka is also there, all covered in bandages, but since he's not Dazai, even with all those bandages, he looks like a loser. Just then, Akane sees the crazy girl outside the treatment room, so she asks her what she's doing there. She replies that her arm doesn't hurt at all, it's like it was never cut off. She thought it was a dream, but she still wasn't able to come to terms with what actually happened. She asks Akane, while panicking about what will happen to them now. She doesn't want to feel that agonizing pain again, which is ironic since she was about to inflict the same pain on innocent demons. Akane is looking at her, amazed at how the turntables. Miyamoto jumps into the conversation, saying that Akane definitely knows something. He, on the other hand, is Jon Snow, who knows nothing. He points out how Akane hasn't made his abilities clear yet, so he asks what she is actually hiding. Akane tells him to calm down and repeats that her ability only improves her eyesight a little. She refuses to elaborate anymore, and then reveals that she saw Yuto's story with her own eyes. She walks to Miyamoto and asks him if he remembers what Yuto's ability is. Miyamoto shares that it was simply pulling stuff, an ability that is more useless than Pythagoras' theorem in real life. Akane reveals that the Yuto she saw had a long list of skills. Not as long as a list of One Piece episodes, but still long. Everyone is shocked to hear this and also confused since Yuto is only supposed to have one lane skill. However, Akane assures them that what she saw was the truth. That is her ability, to be able to see what others can't see. However, even she doesn't know about stuff that she can't see, such as the happy future of Eren and Mikasa. Miyamoto clicks his tongue and goes to the second stage of mental illness, which is denial. He was first shocked, but now he thinks that Yuto has some cowardly skill. However, Akane corrects him that it's not cowardly. Meanwhile, Minace has regained consciousness but still hasn't fully healed, so she's using the wall to help her walk. Even a wall has a better game than us. She gets close to the hall and hears some classmates talking about whether it's really necessary to fight Yuto. Yuto has sided with demons, which makes him their enemy, but they are wondering if demons really are a threat to them, as they haven't seen any demons eat humans. They wonder what the Empire wants from them. Behind Minace is a mustache guy who also hears the doubts rising in Hiro's minds. Minace then enters the hall and Akane is really happy to see her all good. She asks Minace if she's alright now and that she shouldn't push herself. The guys then notice that lame mustache guy behind her, the type of mustache your barber gives you after Turkey got eliminated by the Netherlands. The guy walks into the hall and mocks everyone there by saying how incredible it is to see all the heroes worn out like a single guy's second pillow. He laughs at how their heroic strength and skills didn't come in handy. Miyamoto gets super angry, so with that constipated expression on his face, he asks this Noodles mustache guy about his identity. The guy turns around and shares that he would also like Miyamoto and others to know about the nobles of this country that the heroes are indebted to. He shares that his name is Malcolm Salisford, the finance minister, and the next head of the Salisford family. Miyamoto asks what business does the finance minister has with them, so Malcolm states that he's here to lend his wisdom to everyone who ran away from the remnants of demons. After all, he claims that despite this kind of mustache, he's not some dumb guy who let his comrade join the other side. Miyamoto asks what Malcolm is implying, so Malcolm states that the heroes would have been in a lot worse condition right now because the other court nobles didn't expect heroes to come out of the dungeon alive. However, he's the one who took care of it. He puts his hand on Miyamoto's shoulder and reminds him that he can't let everything end like this, not after Yuto formed a stick of Miyamoto's hero skill and made him jump on it. Miyamoto turns to him with rage in his eyes, the type of rage when one feels after putting all your force into it, yet losing to constipation. Malcolm laughs as Miyamoto is not as scary as he thinks he is. However, he states that it still isn't too late to learn proper use of their powers. For that, he offers to teach them various things about the demons and Yuto. He will tell them everything, including the secret to having hair from down there on his face, because information is power. He is already prepared to eradicate those demons because that's how strong his connections are. His side chick shows the wanted poster that he issued for Yuto with a handsome bounty with coconut for his head. So if Miyamoto wants revenge, he should get strong quickly, otherwise someone else might beat him to getting clapped by Yuto again. Just then, the door of the hall is destroyed by someone. Turns out it's just the crazy dog Onizuka who wasn't leashed or tied to a pole. He calls out Malcolm and asks for the whereabouts of Yuto. He's still hung up on him like a toxic ex. At this point, Onizuka can't deny that he likes getting destroyed by Yuto. He grabs Malcolm's royal collars and asks where Yuto is right now and everything he knows about him. Malcolm pulls a King Baldwin move to order his guard to push this dog away. Malcolm then asks him to calm down and orders Onizuka to shut up like a good dog if he wants to know about Yuto. He doesn't understand what the big deal is, so Onizuka yells at him, saying that he needs his revenge, so Malcolm should tell him all about the tricks Yuto used to defeat him. Miyamoto thinks the same, stating that someone as cowardly as Yuto should not have that kind of power. Malcolm reveals that the power of a Demon King is indeed terrifying, but they shouldn't forget that the Empire did defeat the Demon King 400 years ago. His Salisford family has been keeping track of events since then, so he knows everything about what happened, which means he knows how to defeat someone as strong as the Demon King. At the Salisford mansion, Malcolm welcomes everyone and begins the round table conference. Everyone is sitting like a normal person should, except Onizuka, because his bum is still hurting after that incident with Yuto. He then begins to share about the power of the Demon King. First of all, he wants to talk about the dungeon they visited. Although the Empire calls it an Imperial Underground Labyrinth, the true name of that dungeon is the Dungeon of the Demon King. It was once a city ruled by that demon kind. That place is filled with resentment of the demons and the girl's magical power. He's talking about Melia. That magical power is the reason why monsters keep popping up. The heroes were sent there to test their strength. Miyamoto asks if he's talking about the girl with Yuto, so Malcolm shares that she's the daughter of that demon king. She was sealed in the deepest part of that dungeon, and he wished that the Empire would have just ended her life. The heroes think the same, as she is now more dangerous than ever along with Yuto. However, Onizuka isn't too worried because after all, she's still a child. Not too big of a deal for him. Malcolm reminds him that he did lose to her just a while ago, so he shouldn't act so arrogant. Onizuka claims that he only fought Yuto, which means Melia wasn't strong enough to be on the front lines. Malcolm states that Melia was unsealed by Yuto's power, so he's sure that Onizuka wouldn't stand a chance against either of them at his current level. Akane seems to be thinking about something. The time when she looked at Yuto when he walked away after healing that crazy girl. Her eyes met with Melia's eyes, and she saw something very strange. Minesh notices the frustration on Akane's face. Malcolm continues the yapping session by saying that humans are really powerless creatures. Really weak compared to the demons and the dragons, so they made several weapons for the survival of mankind. One of these weapons is summoning heroes. 400 years ago, the hero who single-handedly destroyed the demons had an unconventional power. He had all the 30 abilities of these heroes in himself. His name was Rie, the real thing. Malcolm adds that when a man acquires true power, his attack will destroy the enemy forces with a single blow. Miyamoto realizes that he just caught a stray. He asks Malcolm if he's calling him weak. Malcolm sugarcoats his words by saying that Miyamoto is not weak, he's the strongest chicken of all time. He's disappointed because the heroes right now are below the level of Malcolm's private army. The classmates can't deny the fact that their mad dog, Onizuka, was held down by Malcolm's guard with one hand. Onizuka realizes that the big guy grabbed him as easily as one would grab walnuts in his pocket, so he starts yelling about how he doesn't care about the Demon King. He only wants to hear about Yuto. However, Malcolm states that he needs to inform the heroes why they are so weak before getting to Yuto's topic. He claims that originally, one can learn the power of their opponents. Hero Rie was summoned to this world with extraordinary power, and the heroic strength Miyamoto has was just one of the basic skills that Rie possessed. Miyamoto is making that top 10 shocking moments face. Rie's power increased and he grew stronger just by looking at other people's skills. In the end, he became so strong that he could not be handled by anyone in this world. These guys have acquired all the skills that were originally in Rie's possession. Therefore, Malcolm reveals that the heroes simply need to unify their powers. Everyone goes silent for a second except Onizuka, who has got the answer he was looking for. All he needs to do is learn the powers of other people. The other people are nothing but flies in his eyes, so he thinks he can easily imitate them, just as he is imitating the role of an MF in this story. The coward sitting at Onizuka's right reminds him that the plate he smashed did not belong to him, but what's more noticeable is that Onizuka used Hike's skill to smash the plate. Miyamoto, for once, is not constipated as he smiles like some guy who understands what he needs to do. Meanwhile, Melia, Yuto, and Ryan are walking around the city while Melia is expressing discomfort in a dress having so much fabric. Yuto tells her to bear it since she can't walk around the city dressed like before. Melia understands that walking around while wearing the formal attire of a demon lord is risky as it would reveal her identity. Yuto nods while thinking about how her identity is not the only thing on display in that attire, but since she won't get it, he decides to stay silent. Ryan then whispers to them, suggesting that they should be more cautious. Yuto thinks that they don't need to worry too much as the wanted poster was only distributed among the thieves and bandits. Ryan feels a bit more satisfied, and they have been walking around for a while now without anyone recognizing them, so it's all good. Ryan states that she is thankful to Melia for leaving a barrier in the demon capital so she can accompany her without worrying about those little demons. Melia counterthanks Ryan for accompanying her and states that protecting people is a natural duty of royalty. The NPCs we saw earlier in the forest told Yuto and everyone that the one who handed out the wanted letter to them was Malcolm Salisford, the Imperial Finance Minister. He added that Malcolm is an imperial noble who does whatever he wants with the money. He claims that Malcolm is worse than the thieves, and what's even worse than his personality is that earthworm mustache. The bandit shared that Malcolm has a territory near the Empire, and if Yuto and others go there, they will see what kind of pig Malcolm is. Yuto notices that despite being the territory of the nobility's finance minister, the atmosphere here is bad. He mentions the guy who was passing by while complaining about something. The three of them decide to gather information by asking the residents about Malcolm. Melia is on board with the idea as long as she can enjoy the lollipop. They first ask an old couple of NPCs, and then an NPC carrying a bag, and then some more. After some time, they have fully grasped the situation of this region and the kind of man Malcolm is. Not sure about the man part. Yuto states that Malcolm is the worst thing in this world. Ryan states that his family does seem to have a long history. The Salisford family contributed to subjugating the Demon King 400 years ago. They possess the technique to summon heroes, so they use it to summon the first generation of heroes and conquer the royal capital in one night. Yuto hesitates to continue as he doesn't want to hurt Melia's feelings, but she tells him to continue. After that, the hero continued to make a long list of achievements and kept getting stronger, which earned him a good reputation among humans as an absolute strength. However, the upper echelons of the Empire started viewing such powerful beings as threats to their rule. This story, over time, became a legend called the hero who saved the Empire's crisis by sacrificing his life. In reality, the Empire, which was already afraid of the hero's strength, set a trap in the dungeon and killed the hero. These are only rumors though, but Yuto thinks that the rumors are correct as the Empire is cheap enough to pull this off. Ryan also thinks that the rumor is actually true. Ryan then adds that Malcolm used his position and power as the finance minister to put pressure on the people. One of his actions was the declaration of emancipation of slaves. It may sound good, but in reality, they took away all the slaves and gave them to the upper classes. Not just the slaves, but also people from the slums and orphans were abducted by him. Even some of the children of the townsfolk were taken away by him. Ryan despises people who take from the powerless, so she hates this pregnant pig named Malcolm. Yuto and Melia get up as Melia asks Yuto if he knows where the enemy is right now. The only thing left is to buy some ultra-rare, only available to MC weapon so they can fully prepare themselves to wreak havoc. Melia walks towards the weapons store while saying how Yuto doesn't know how things work in this world, so she will help him understand a bit. Also, she wants to give Ryan a small reward for all her services. They walk inside the store and Yuto can already feel that this is the kind of store one should never enter. The store that has the magical ability to empty your pockets. He asks Melia if they have the money to shop here. Melia shares that money is not a problem since she sold the materials acquired from monsters that Yuto defeated. The horn of the skeletal dragon earned them a big fortune. Yuto is a bit relieved, so he walks to the counter. As usual, the extra respectful salesman of this expensive store asks them if Yuto and others like their selection. He starts singing praises of their products by saying that all of their selection is of high quality and both the swords and shields are made of super iron so they won't break. Thankfully, Yuto and others do not have to click the link in the bio, which would reveal that this guy is just another drop shipper with no actual hands-on experience of the product. Melia points at a sword and asks the shopkeeper to tell her about it. Then she points at some gloves and then an axe. The shopkeeper shows everything, but when it comes to the gloves, he states that this product is a magic tool used to manipulate magic powers. However, he adds that the power of the glove cannot be used by ordinary humans. It was originally created in commemoration of the summoning of heroes, so now it's just a decoration piece. However, Yuto immediately states that he will be taking this one. Meanwhile, Ryan is showing her inner beast by going for the biggest she can find. Biggest weapon. She picks up the weapon that should only be used by a Shinigami, or maybe the cast of 50 Shades of Grey. She likes the feel of this weapon and immediately realizes that this is the one for her. Melia asks if that was also for decoration, but the shopkeeper is happy. And a bit nervous too, but mostly happy because he was wondering when a hero with extraordinary power would come to their store. They decide to buy gloves and an axe. However, just as Melia is about to pay, Ryan stops her saying that she was only checking it out, but it's way too expensive to buy. However, Melia ignores her and puts the bag filled with coins on the table. Ryan understands that she must have sold the products from the dungeon. Meanwhile, the shopkeeper is having a hard time packing the products. The shopkeeper then states that their store has many transactions with the Empire, so they always make sure that their quality is top-notch. Therefore, he hopes that Yuto and others will consider them again if they require another weapon. Yuto wonders if Malcolm also buys from this store, so the shopkeeper reveals that he does, But Malcolm's requests are a bit special and unusual. He mostly makes custom orders for their in-house craftsmen to make the weapons that ordinary people can't even carry. Melia asks the shopkeeper to speak more about those weapons. To not sound suspicious, Yuto states that they want to know the Lord's orders for reference. The shopkeeper gets called by the craftsman, so he leaves for a minute. Meanwhile, Ryan asks Yuto if this is what they were aiming for while coming to this store. Yuto smiles as he clarifies that he's not that bright. Just then, the shopkeeper comes back with Malcolm's custom order. Melia and others look at the notes written in the universal gibberish language. Still better than a doctor's handwriting. Melia notices something strange in these notes. Meanwhile, Malcolm is pulling on his aloe vera mustache while saying that his eyes are very sharp. He is in the middle of a true round table conference of all the big shots of the Empire. They're talking about how it doesn't matter if the opponent is also a hero. No matter how badly he was wounded or left behind in the dungeon, they should keep the possibility of surviving in their mind. Malcolm states that he didn't have his rooting in more than that. The Demon King's daughter was sealed, but now the seal has broken. Malcolm then interrupts, saying that he will settle this deal. A guy states Dennis has already thought about Melia getting free, so the preparations to make heroes stronger are undergoing. But Malcolm states that he doesn't need to rely on the heroes because his private army is strong enough to deal with stray heroes and little girls like Melia. This black shirt guy, Roy, states that it must mean that the knights as escorts are unnecessary. Malcolm agrees as he claims that compared to the hero who never dies, a little girl under a ceiling curse is not worth taking the military. He doesn't want the knights to interfere with his private army. Just then, this clean-shave elite with lots of air pumped into him, Dennis, states that they should conclude the meeting for now. For now, they will leave this matter to Malcolm, including the authority to manage the heroes. Malcolm is glad to hear this verdict as he looks at Roy and rubs it in his face, saying that he should leave this matter to the guy with the ugliest mustache. Roy remains silent as he doesn't seem to be happy with this decision. On his way back, Malcolm could not be more delighted with the look on Roy's face. He talks to his bodyguard about how Roy is very incompetent and that he's superior to Roy in money, power, wisdom, and everything. Moreover, he's closer to Dennis than Roy. He hopes that soon Roy's seat will become his seat too. Malcolm is back in his mansion, so he asks the butler for the report. He's sure that the stray hero must be dealt with by now after he issued that hefty amount. Without him, taking care of Melia is just an ordinary task. He asks his butler if Melia is also dealt with or not. However, the butler reports that not a single bandit or thug has arrived to claim the reward. Malcolm is not very pleased with this news, so he gives his butler a wife from 1950s treatment. He puts his foot on the butler's hand and reminds him that he doesn't like jokes. He keeps kicking him while reminding him of how much money he has already spent to issue those posters. He's confused as to why not a single report came from all those people. Just then, someone calls out Malcolm. Turns out, it's his father. The one guy Malcolm is terrified of is his father. Being Asian, he has always longed to get praise from his father. He informs Papa Salusford that he has been formally given the duty to subjugate the stray hero. He assures Papa Salusford that everything is going well. However, Papa Salusford warns Malcolm not to underestimate the hero too much. He should remember that he lives in the middle of people who don't like him. Malcolm states that his father doesn't need to worry about him. Instead, he should focus on the mustache that might choke him. Malcolm then heads off to this locked room. He's frustrated at how all those useless people weren't able to accomplish anything and regrets relying on them. He's in some jail type of room. The butler asks Malcolm if he plans to use these children. However, Malcolm states that he doesn't need to go that far for a little girl who escapes the seal curse. However, he looks at the beasts inside the cage with an evil smirk on his face. The kind of smile one has when he has final stage main character syndrome. He says that he will use these beasts when the time comes. After heading out of the weapons shop, Melia states that they should now head for the forest. Ryan is confused as they are supposed to avoid the forest because of those wanted posters issued by Malcolm. However, Melia states that it would be fine because they aren't weak enough to be bothered by some insignificant NPCs. Yuto then asks Melia why she came here. Melia reveals that she intends to scatter some bait in this forest. She wants to throw some bones so the dogs come here. She asks Yuto if there are any decent people among the heroes, someone like Yuto who would switch sides when told the truth. Yuto thinks about it, and he doesn't consider himself decent, but if he were to pick someone from his class, the only one to pop up in his mind, the only one who was against leaving Yuto to die, is Menes. Melia tells Yuto to calm down as she is not looking for someone exactly like him. Ryan asks Melia what she plans to do, so Melia reveals that she's thinking of them to help remove the problems of people in the territory. Yuto asks if she plans to let the heroes take the role of defeating Malcolm. Melia adds that no matter how evil Malcolm is or how absurd his ruling policies are, there's nothing they can do in the territory of the finance minister. However, Yuto understands that heroes who are already seen as outsiders can act against him on the basis of his poor rule. Yuto thinks about Akane, Minace, and some other classmates who are likely to help the people for sure. Melia then approaches Ryan and asks her if she's against this idea. Ryan is not too comfortable, as she hesitantly states that since Yuto was a hero too in the first place, she has to consider the possibility of other heroes having a pure heart unlike Onizuka or Miyamoto or that crazy girl. She then asks what the bait is. Just then, Melia senses something in the bushes. She uses Black Burial to catch the intruder and tie him up. She then reveals that this right here is the bait. She tells Yuto to make sure the bait is set up perfectly. Yuto approaches the bandit and asks him if he knows about the heroes. Since the guy's mouth has been shut, Yuto doesn't wait for the answer and proceeds to talk. He tells him to pass on a message to any hero, preferably a girl hero, because he knows the only approachable girl would be Akane. He then gives the message. He states that the finance minister Malcolm Salisford is illegally capturing slaves and making their lives hell for fun. He asks the bandit if he understands the message. The bandit nods, so now that he's untied, he asks if they are actually going to let him go just for this. He doesn't want to lose aura points by dying while running away. Yuto nods and warns him that there won't be a next time. Yuto then asks him if he has any friends, so the bandit replies that he is not going to sell them out. Take a moment to pay respect to this legend. Yuto assures him that he doesn't have to sell out his friends. He just has to pass on this message to his circle. Yuto reveals that they intend to deliver information to the heroes, so the more people hear about it, the better the chances of this information reaching some hero's ears. The bandit promises to deliver the message, saying that all his friends have marks on their bodies, so even if Yuto and others come across them, he doesn't want them to hurt his friends. The goat NPC then leaves. Yuto and Ryan nervously laugh at seeing Melia telling the NPC to leave now. They are impressed and a bit scared of her dominant characteristics. Ryan praises Yuto as well, and the three of them decide to move on. Ryan asks if they are going to continuously do this, so Melia shares that they have already finished gathering information on the finance minister, so all they need to do now is lure him in and strike. Ryan understands the plan, as she also notices that Malcolm's character is not the type to call for reinforcements, as he is too prideful for a balloon with 2 eyes and a shoelace. Meanwhile, at the training ground number 1 in the finance minister's territory, the heroes are doing their best to get stronger. They are coordinating with each other to learn and share skills. Just then, everyone's attention diverts to Miyamoto, who shows some characteristics of Thor's illegitimate child. He's really enjoying it, and since it's Miyamoto, the other classmates won't leave this opportunity to let him become their father. They praise him by saying the same NPC dialogues that he's really amazing and he really knows how to make a power his own. Compared to Miyamoto, the classmates can't help but be disappointed in that mad dog. Onizuka is barking about how everyone is having a hard time with learning other abilities and how they only have basic abilities. This classmate is trying to tell this small brain that they are doing their best, but Onizuka keeps barking. This makes them wonder what's smaller, Onizuka's brain or Onizuka's den. Never mind. Akane is looking at everyone from the sidelines, and she feels that only a few of the heroes are actually motivated. Minish tries to defend them by saying that everyone is trying their best. She also needs to become stronger, so this time, she can bring back Yuto for sure. Both Akane and the girl beside her give her a blank look. This girl calls out Minace for thinking that it's still possible for Yuto and them to be on the same side. The other girl reminds Minace that she was one of his victims in the latest encounter. Minace defends Yuto by saying that he didn't harm her, she only fainted for a while. Meanwhile, Akane overhears these two classmates talking about how this is Malcolm's territory, and he heard something about slavery going on in this region. The other guy also thinks that Malcolm is too harsh on the people of his territory. He wonders if they will also end up as slaves if they fail. He tells the other guy that they need to get stronger so they can fight when the time comes. However, Miyamoto is the only one who is able to learn other skills right now. He thinks that it would be better if they just stayed behind Miyamoto and let him handle the fights. Just then, Malcolm enters the training ground with his knight, asking if everything is going smoothly. Miyamoto replies that he has gained a few skills and abilities. Malcolm replies in a disappointing tone, asking if he has only managed to learn a few by now. Malcolm then takes some pressure off the heroes, saying that even if they can't use each other's abilities, his private soldiers are strong enough to deal with all kinds of enemies. Onizuka is dumb, but not dumb enough to not realize the insult in this comment. He has had enough of this Smurf's arrogance, so he asks him to let him fight one of his private soldiers. Malcolm warns him that his weak ability won't be of any use, but Onizuka replies that if his private soldiers are that strong, then they should hand over their abilities to him. He doesn't mind going against anyone, even that huge guy behind Malcolm. Malcolm sighs and decides to let Onizuka get humiliated for the third time. He still reminds Onizuka that this is what he wished for himself. He then orders his knight to take on Onizuka and have all the fun he wants. The knight takes off his shady, mysterious cloak and turns out it's a strong, muscular beastman. Malcolm still orders the beastman not to end Onizuka's life yet. Onizuka is glad that his opponent at least appears to be strong, and he can't wait to put some more scars on that face. The fight begins. After a few seconds, we see Malcolm laughing as he knew it would come to this. The beastman is standing with no bruises or anything, whereas Onizuka is on his knees, covered in blood. Everyone is shocked to see how strong the beastman is, but they are not shocked to see Onizuka get beaten up, because it happens every now and then. Malcolm, with an evil grin, states that given how weak Onizuka is, he should let him get beaten up some more. Yuto, Ryan, and Melia are now waiting for the heroes to take the bait and ambush them. Ryan asks Melia if the heroes would actually come, so Melia replies that they should, as they would be losing their advantage if they didn't. They have revealed their whereabouts to both Malcolm and the heroes, so Yuto wonders who will get to them first. Maybe both try to surround them together. Yuto tells Melia that the bandit who returned told him that he conveyed the message. Since Yuto knows the hero who delivered the message, he's sure that there will be some movements. Ryan asks about the recipient, so Yuto shares that the one who received the news and the one with the most influence on the heroes among the girls is Akane Sajo. Melia then asks Yuto if he could tell them about the other heroes, including their influence and combat capabilities. Yuto starts with the guy who is not even the main character of his own life, Naoki Miyamoto, with the hero skill. He has the most influence on all the heroes. All Yuto knows about the hero skill is that it's strong, so he asks Melia if there's more to it. She reveals that right now, the skill isn't very useful. She then asks about others, so Yuto tells them about Onizuka, the guy who likes it rough. He has the God of Ogre skill that has already been absorbed. He wasn't a big deal for Ryan or Melia, but for Yuto, he was a big threat. On the bright side, his annoying personality is working in their favor now, as he has been causing trouble for the people of the Empire lately. It's good for them that Onizuka is causing discord in the ranks. Ryan notices that even though it's just the two of them, Yuto seems to have a good say in every matter. Melia seems pleased even though Yuto is the one who gets praise. For the rest of them, Yuto talks about 4 girls that they should pay attention to. First one is Akane Sajo. According to her, she only has the skill of good eyesight. However, she's more than that. She has always been good at reading the atmosphere and using it to get closer to people. She doesn't care whether the person she's approaching is dangerous or anything. However, she's good at reading personalities, so things would depend on how she feels about Malcolm. Yuto thinks about how Akane would for sure prioritize her safety, but she does have the skills and influence to put pressure on Malcolm. Ryan then asks about the other 3 girls, so Melia interrupts him and asks if one of those 3 is the girl who is in love with Yuto. He avoids this bold statement, but Melia isn't wrong because Menace is a valued healer with recovery skills. Moreover, her influence on heroes is just as significant as Miyamoto's. He talks about his original world and how strength wasn't the basis of judgment there. Menace has the qualities to make everyone take a liking to her. The other 2 girls are Leno Nagisa and Kaido Saya. Kaido is the swordsman that Ryan clashed with earlier. Yuto states that these 2 do not have much influence on the heroes, but they are very strong. Yuto thinks that those 2 might be stronger than Miyamoto and Onizuka. He again talks about his world where compatibility wasn't really necessary, and people would just watch videos on YouTube rather than train for the mission. Still, these 2 came from a special family. Not just the 2, Miyamoto was also like them. Ryan is getting nervous after hearing all this because she's now worried about fighting against them. However, Melia tells her not to worry. She then asks Yuto about Ryan's skills. Yuto claims that he can handle Water Blade skill easily, but Dragon Technique needs a bit more practice. He can't fully grasp it yet, Ryan immediately shoves her face in front of Yuto with excitement, saying that he will be able to handle it in no time. Milia then looks at the entrance with a goofy, "Now we gotta wait" expression while saying that now they gotta wait. Back at the Empire's castle, Lord Roy, the Minister of Affairs, meets with one-eyed glasses, Chancellor Dennis. He asks Dennis what brings him here, so Dennis gives the BL reply by saying that they are close enough to visit without any specific business. Maybe he wants to show off his perfectly symmetrical partition of hair. However, this time he does have a specific purpose of visiting other than hair partition or anti-gravity glasses. He wants to talk about the stray hero and how they have roughly traced his location. Still, the finance minister Malcolm is unable to track their movements. He then walks closer to Roy, so that they are both shoulder to shoulder to intensify the situation. He reveals that he has received concerning information. Therefore, he wants to entrust Roy with a new task. Roy asks if it's to subjugate the rogue hero, but Dennis walks past him with an evil smirk. The kind mastermind smile you put on after guessing her favorite anime on the first try. She has Captain Levi on her profile picture though. He tells Roy that the task is to investigate the finance minister Malcolm and purge him if needed. Dennis then takes his leave. He enters Malcolm's office and asks if everything is going smoothly. Malcolm is surprised to see Dennis in here, but he calmly shares that everything is going well. Dennis notices the nervousness on Malcolm's face and decides to further pressure him by saying that this matter of rogue hero is of great concern to the Emperor as well, so he should not fail. Dennis again notices Malcolm sweating like crazy and even his mustache is losing erection now. Therefore, he decides to enjoy it a bit more. He tells Malcolm that he heard a concerning story about his territory and wants to discuss it. He brings up the conflict with the beastmen in his territory, and before Malcolm says anything, Dennis states that he knows there are hardly any traces left. However, the beastmen aren't fully eradicated yet. The Empire struggled a lot to develop that land, and even though the beastmen were really strong, Malcolm's family demonstrated great bravery. However, Dennis reminds him that the beastman bloodline threatens the Empire, so they need to be eradicated as the first priority. The reason Salisford family rules over that territory is that there are no beastmen left. However, rumors are spreading that there are some survivors from that bloodline. Dennis has successfully scared Malcolm to the point where he might start crying, so he decides to leave while saying that he has high hopes for Malcolm to fulfill the role of his family. Malcolm is wondering where the leak came from and how did Dennis find out about this. Malcolm's pants might turn yellow over the fact that even the Emperor knows about everything that is happening in his territory. He decides to focus on the rogue hero first because he would then be able to end the demon clan's bloodline as well by defeating Melia. Just then, Malcolm's butler enters the room and whispers the good news in his ear. Malcolm's mustache is finally erect with the happy news that they finally know the location of Yuto and others. Malcolm laughs over how Yuto and others' location could not be worse because the place they are at is where Malcolm's family once annihilated the heroes. Meanwhile, Akane is staring at the sky, thinking about how she has done everything she could against Malcolm. However, what happens from this point onwards is not in her control. The heroes, Malcolm and his knights, and Yuto with Melia and Ryan prepare themselves, and they all gather at one location for an all-out brawl. The bait was aimed at both heroes and Malcolm. They are both aware of Yuto's location, so Naoko will be the first to reach them? Or will they attack together? Roy has also decided to watch the show from the front seat, so he's also riding towards the location on his questionable horse. Melia still has that I know everything smile on her face and closed eyes. Yuto gets up as they hear the noises indicating that the enemy is finally here. The first ones to reach Yuto are the heroes with Miyamoto in front. The place feels a bit creepy to the heroes, and for some reason, it feels colder down here than the above ground. Just then, a guy notices something strange in the cave. It's Tsumiki's summon skill, but there's no way she can summon these many Labobo minions. Moreover, the minions are wearing black overcoats with high collars, so they clearly belong to the new owner of the summon skill, Yuto. Miyamoto smiles as he approaches the entrance and sees his soulmate. He tells Yuto that he's glad to have finally found him, and now nothing can stop him from becoming the mother of Yuto's child. He calls Yuto a coward, which doesn't make sense. So Miyamoto explains that gaining somebody else's skills without any effort is clearly what a coward does. He tells Yuto that having this cowardly power and plot armor would not make him the main character of this story. However, Yuto stays silent as Miyamoto has no idea what nonsense he's yapping. It's not like Yuto has that premium senseless and infinitely ridiculous plot armor like Sukuna. Miyamoto then proudly states that he has also acquired some skills, so he won't let Yuto do whatever he wants now. Ryan does not remember ordering a cappuccino, so she kicks Miyamoto in the face and sends him flying to the other side. Miyamoto is not into feet stuff, so he's angry at Ryan now. He then notices Yuto and Milia walking away, so he yells at him saying that he should not run away. Ryan tries to attack Miyamoto again, which he barely dodges. She tells him that Yuto is not getting away, he's just clearing the space for Ryan to deal with Miyamoto, because someone as weak as Miyamoto is not worth Yuto's time. Miyamoto and Ryan go head to head, and while their attacks clash with each other, Milia looks at Yuto to say something to him without saying any words. Yuto understands whatever she's trying to say. He then explains us viewers that their goal is to bring down the Imperial Treasurer Malcolm Salisford, as they intend to expose his slavery laws in front of heroes. Therefore, they want to avoid fighting the heroes as much as possible. Yuto thinks that it would have been better if the heroes stayed quiet like good boys until Malcolm arrived, but seems like these children lack discipline. Just then, Yuto makes eye contact with Onizuka, the guy who has been getting a 50s wife treatment since the first chapter. Bro is used to get beaten up now, so he's looking a bit mature and silent. Meanwhile, Miyamoto is frustrated. He's frustrated at how these Dragon Tribe members keep getting in his way. Like a brave guy who got challenged by a girl, Miyamoto decides to honor the duel by asking other heroes to surround Ryan. However, this proposes the perfect chance for Ryan to use her newly bought weapon. However, the party gets interrupted as the heroes notice a barrier forming around them. The barrier that would keep Gojo Satoru out and let Sukuna make up some skills that haven't been used since the Heian era. The heroes wonder what is going on. Just then, this hero with the famous Saitama haircut notices that they can't use their skills. The skills of all the heroes have been sealed with this barrier. Just then, they hear a guy standing on top of the cliff, calling the heroes a bunch of idiots. He reveals that this place was created to seal the hero away. Everyone is surprised to see Malcolm with 2 antennas for a mustache here. He praises Miyamoto in a sarcastic tone for at least containing Yuto and Milia in this location. He did not expect Miyamoto or others to defeat Yuto, so this was the most they could do. He then points above and tells everyone to enjoy the scenery of that monument that contains a barrier to seal away the skills. The heroes now know why they can't use their powers, but this is exactly what's making them all panic. Without the skills, they are just as useless as that 2 pointy-faced compass in the geometry box. They have no idea what to do now because they can't fight like this. If the monsters appear right now, they know that from the next chapter onwards, the author will have no need to draw them. They wonder what the old man is thinking right now. Malcolm then states that the hero Ray he mentioned earlier also lost his life while trapped in this barrier. The heroes then realize that if Hero Ray couldn't survive, then their chances are as low as the chances of us getting a remake of Tokyo Ghoul. However, there's one guy who's actually happy about this barrier. That guy is Miyamoto because he's looking at the bright side. Now Yuto is just an ordinary person, so he should be able to handle him easily. However, Malcolm states that it won't be necessary because none of the heroes will come out of this barrier alive. That is why he's here. He thinks that heroes are useless and they are getting in his way of whatever he wants to accomplish. The heroes yell at him, but not even a single hair of Malcolm's mustache gives a flying fork about the hero's opinion. The only person he cares about is Milia because he doesn't plan to let her survive anymore. Malcolm thinks about how everyone keeps talking about the heroes and remembers when he was given the command of heroes. Lord Dennis told Malcolm that he believes Malcolm is the right person for this job, so he's counting on him. However, Malcolm believes that even without relying on heroes, they can easily defeat every demon or every calamity that comes their way. He believes that there's no force stronger than his own army. With that, he commands the beastmen to charge at the heroes and finish them off. A couple of heroes get injured, but most were able to dodge the initial attack. However, they can see the army of beastmen heading their way. They realize that this may actually be their final moments. However, there still are 2 heroes who are just as powerful without their skills. Nagisa Ino and Kato Saya unsheathe their swords and prepare for battle. However, the enemy keeps coming from all sides, and what's really shocking to the heroes is that Yuto, Ryan, Milia, Ino, and Saya also cannot use the skills, but are not only keeping up with the beastmen, but are also overpowering them. The beasts are having the time of their life as well. Getting rid of heroes from this world is like a lively hunt for them, so Malcolm tickles his weenie mustache as he states that these are beastmen after all. But these beasts need to be kept under control. Ryan is still using the backside of her axe so she doesn't accidentally reduce the cast of beastmen. She asks Yuto whether they should defeat the Beastmen, but Yuto claims that it's not necessary since the Beastmen aren't at fault. He notices that the Beastmen are all cursed. Their actions are being restricted by Malcolm through the collars on their necks. He then adds that Milia can remove the curse to some extent, but she only wants to use it once all the Beastmen are released. The curse removal is highly exhausting for her. Ryan then asks about their stance on the heroes, so Yuto states that they shouldn't be Eren Yeagered or Gojo Seidarud as well if possible because after everything, Yuto still thinks of them as classmates. Ryan smiled as she didn't expect anything else from Yuto. She then runs off to knock some more beasts while Yuto kicks a beast away from Akari and shows us that you gotta knock some beasts to land some beaches. He then notices another beast approaching from behind. However, before he takes care of it, Nagisa and Kato take him down easily. This confirms Yuto's suspicion that only the activation of skills has been sealed. The abilities already incorporated into their body are still functioning effectively. Nagisa then tells Yuto that they will be leaving the rear to him. Yuto smiles and tells her that she's reliable. The beast kicking then begins officially, and the little children with their small hearts are finally catching breath. They realize that Yuto, Ryan, Nagisa, and Kato are enough to take care of all the beasts. This Baldy gets overly enthusiastic and lets Delulu take over his mind. He states that they should help the four and try to aid Kato. Kato tries to stop him, but it's too late. Baldy gets circumcised by a beast and now the air has gotten tense again. The heroes have started to fall into despair again. They couldn't believe their eyes as Baba Yuji lay in front of them in two parts. Minis tries to approach him saying that she should heal him, but Akane stops her saying that no amount of super glue or even super cyan glue can save Baba Yuji now. While they are all in a state of shock, Malcolm starts clapping and laughing, celebrating the fact that one hero is finally down. He speaks about how this sight is really refreshing for him and orders all the beastmen to take down the rest of the heroes, especially the stray ones. Malcolm may not be a good person, but he's no simp as he commands the beastmen to bury the women as well. Meanwhile, Yuto starts walking toward Baba/Yuji, with an aura so terrifying that even the beasts are making way for him. Ryan notices Yuto's eyes and gets nervous about what's about to come. Yuto then gives a death stare to Malcolm, which terrifies Malcolm's last three generations. Even Ryan, Nagisa, Kaito, Miyamoto, and Onizuka could feel the terror of that stare. Malcolm doesn't like this attitude from Yuto, so he tries to remind him that he can't do anything from within that barrier. However, just then something hits his right ear before he can even complete his sentence. Yuto then crouches down and absorbs the ability of Baba Yuji. Malcolm has lost composure now, so he commands his underling to unleash their trump card. The guy asks Malcolm if he's sure about this, so Malcolm responds that it may be uncontrollable, but he can handle it with this magic tool. Suddenly, the heroes and the beastmen all start hearing irritating noises that are not only hurting their eyes but also their souls. It's as if they are hearing the celebration song of Cucurella on winning Euros. Malcolm then tells this guy to bring out their trump card. He then looks at the heroes for one last time because once they face his secret weapon, they won't stand a chance. Turns out, Malcolm's trump card is Nina and Nona, two incredibly beautiful beasts that aren't a bad option if you get to choose your assassin. With a big sword and small clothes, Nina immediately gets in front of Yuto and tells him that it's playtime. Ryan tries to aid Yuto, but she's interrupted by Nona, who informs her that she's the one Ryan will be playing with. Nina and Nona have already smoked the battleground, so Nina tells Nona to take it easy. Meanwhile, Yuto and Ryan are also unscathed for now. Milia walks to one of the towers that is holding the barrier and puts her hand on it. She then signals Yuto that he needs to buy her some time. Yuto agrees, and he and Ryan keep dodging attacks from Nina and Nona. However, the Beast Sisters notice that and state that running away is boring. They can feel that Yuto is strong, so they want to fight him seriously. Nina and Nona charge at Yuto and Ryan, who are standing together, guarding each other's blind spot, making it clear that they are only maintaining a defensive stance. Ryan then asks Yuto to do something, so he uses an ice crystal skull to block Nina and Nona's paths. They are stunned as they do not expect Yuto to be able to use a skill. Ryan wonders what happened, so Yuto explains that if he pours more magic than anticipated into this barrier, he can use his skills. Nina and Nona then decide to put Yuto on priority as he seems more fun to play with. They charge at him from both front and back, saying that he seems more delicious than that dragon person. Yuto is less scared and more aroused by hearing that he's delicious, but turns out the girls are literally trying to feast on him. While one distracts Yuto from the front, the other sneaks behind to take a bite with her triangular, unevenly spaced teeth. Yuto uses a whirlwind to put some distance between them, but the love bite on his neck seems to be much more intense than he anticipated. The girls then compliment Yuto for being so tasty. They haven't had a unique flavor like this ever, so they want it to last as long as possible. However, while they are still talking about dinner, Yuto is already focused on the dessert as he sneaks behind their cakes and startles them. He uses fire skills to show them that he isn't happy with them getting a taste of him without his consent. However, while the girls are getting barbecued, Yuto realizes that he went too far without really thinking. That does not seem to be a problem because the only damage that attack did was a sneeze. Nina complains about the dust while Yuto is glad that he didn't accidentally take their lives. Meanwhile, the other heroes are confused as if they are watching the ending of Inception. For them, the fight between Yuto and Nina Nona is like watching Seiki K. The speed is too fast for their peanut-sized brain to process. Their views about Yuto are changing as they realize that they might have underestimated Yuto. They remember their mission and how they came here to defeat Yuto, but seeing how he's fighting even with the barrier is too much. They wonder where they can find red lipstick and white powder so they can paint their faces like a clown. They realize that there's no way they can defeat Yuto. Just then, Milia tells Yuto using telepathy that it's fine now. He has succeeded in buying her enough time. She uses the seal reversal technique and changes the target from hero to beast. She then restarts the skill and suddenly, all the beasts find themselves without their skills. The beasts fall unconscious, and while Nina and Nona fall in Yuto's arms, the heroes feel their strength returning to them. Seeing that the beasts look much weaker than before, one of the NPC heroes wonders if he could take a beast down. He points his sword at the beast and tries to make his exit from the manga. However, Kato stops him, saying that there's no need to do this now. Miyamoto sees that this is the best opportunity to do number 2 from his mouth. He calls out Kato, saying that the beasts are their enemy, so definitely should use this opportunity to take their lives. Before Miyamoto can continue stinking the whole battleground with his smelly words, he finds Yuto, Milia, Ryan, Nagiza, and Kato against him. The 5 of them are ready to use their skills against Miyamoto if he tries to harm the beasts. Miyamoto gets irritated at Yuto again, and while clenching his teeth, he asks Yuto why he always has to disrupt the situation and act on his own. He goes into flashbacks about how Yuto walked away, and even before coming into this world, he remembers the time when he laughed at Yuto for stopping to pay his respect to the cat that didn't make it through. However, he then saw everyone including Minace and Baba Yuji around Yuto despite him not paying any attention to him. Miyamoto, who thinks of him as the main character of this story, starts his rant. But Kato interrupts him, saying that this just means that Yuto didn't do what Miyamoto wanted him to do. She then asks Miyamoto if he really likes to control everything, and how does he plan to resolve this issue. Yuto then adds to the mockery by saying that if Miyamoto can deal with Malcolm, he intends to back off. With that, they ignore Miyamoto and walk away. Meanwhile, someone else is even more constipated than Miyamoto, and that's Malcolm. He yells at them, saying that they shouldn't mess with him and that whatever Yuto and others are planning, he won't let them succeed because he's not done yet. However, Malcolm doesn't notice the person behind him who kicks his neck and knocks him out, and just as Malcolm is about to fall down the cliff, he grabs him. All the heroes are shocked, while Yuto takes his battle stance. Roy then states that regarding this matter, he would like to impose strict punishment on his side. He then looks at Yuto and reminds Malcolm that his target was right here, but he explains that he was also pursuing Malcolm and how he acted against the Empire's heroes is not a permissible deed. He then claims to be of more use than leaving this Yuto matter to the heroes. However, he hasn't brought enough force to face Yuto and everyone. Milia then takes this opportunity to bargain as they have the upper hand right now in this moment. She tells Roy that for them to peacefully leave this place, there's a condition. They will be taking the Beastmen with them. Before Roy can say anything, Milia intimidates him by saying that they are an empire themselves, so they can't ignore this attack unless Roy agrees to their condition. Roy notices that the barrier is useless, so they have no position to disagree. While Yuto and others are walking away, Miyamoto calls out to Yuto and asks how long he plans to keep acting selfishly like this. Yuto looks back at him and ignores him like you were ignored by your crush. As Miyamoto sees Yuto walking away, he realizes that he's like the air resistance in physics questions. He's always negligible, he's always ignored. Back at the castle, Finance Minister Malcolm is tied up and presented in front of the king, who orders Malcolm to explain his actions. The king starts addressing in his royal tone by starting with and saying that Malcolm's actions have become something that cannot be ignored anymore. He highlights how Yuto was a stray hero until now who was wandering around with the daughter of the Demon King. The situation was bad, but not as dire as it has become now with the addition of those beastmen. Roy apologizes for leaving the beastmen with Yuto, but the king tells him that he did have a good job in retreating rather than getting into a direct conflict. Lord Dennis tells Malcolm that he didn't expect him to be this stupid. Lord Dennis adds that the descendant of the beasts along with the survivors of the dragon tribe and the demon lord's daughter is now with Yuto, who has become the strongest among the heroes, so dealing with all of them at once means taking full responsibility. So Roy was wise to come back. He then steps down the stairs and walks towards Malcolm, saying that they need to appoint a new Minister of Finance now. Salisford was originally meant to be dealt with by one of the heroes. Malcolm begs Dennis Sama to give him another chance, but Dennis reminds him of the situation he is in right now. The only issue left for them is to find a way to deal with the rest of Malcolm's family. Malcolm doesn't understand, so Dennis explains that nobles have special privileges. However, those privileges come with responsibility. A heavy responsibility that cannot be overlooked. If any noble fails to fulfill his responsibilities, he has to pay for it with his whole noble bloodline. With that, the guards begin to drag Malcolm away while he begs for mercy from Dennis. However, Dennis tells him that just looking at Malcolm is like watching MHA fandom. He tells Malcolm that until the end, he wasn't fit to be a noble. Just then a knight barges into the throne room without asking for permission first, so Dennis asks him if he knows what this place is. However, the knight states that once he reveals the reason why he's here, they will understand. Just then, Foreign Affairs Minister Vale is back too. He sees the desperation on the knight's face, so he decides to hear him first before saying anything else. The knight then reveals that he has to report something about the heroes. Onizuka has taken the lives of 3 of the heroes and fled with 2 others. Dennis, Roy, Vale, and King are somewhat shocked at this news, as they are now down 6 heroes in an instant. Vale states that he has just gotten back, but he has seen the situation of heroes, and for that reason, the news that Onizuka Chintapak Dum 3 heroes is not shocking to him. Minister Roy rushes towards the hero's room, while Dennis tells him that he's counting on him. At the crime site, Minace is trying her healing magic with desperation to try to heal or revive the 3 of her fallen classmates, while the others are just standing there, in shock at how the events turned out. The 3 lifeless bodies are on the ground, while Minace is sitting by their side, crying, whereas others are wondering what they should do now. This dude with black hair is shivering, while saying how he has been friends with one of the victims since they came to this world, but he still couldn't do anything to protect or save him. Dennis enters the room while panting and sees Miyamoto with a different look in his eyes. He has already been on the verge of going crazy with how Yuto never listened to him and always acted on his own, and now Onizuka, who has always been somewhat restarted, has off 3 classmates. Roy asks Miyamoto if he can explain what happened, so Miyamoto starts yelling, saying that there's nothing to say about this situation and that Yuto and Onizuka messed everything up. They did whatever they wanted, and now they have destroyed everything. Keidu and Nagisa sigh as this dude named Miyamoto can't miss any opportunity to hop into Yuto's lap. Yuto is all he can think about. Nagisa then asks if she can explain, so Roy tells her to go forward. We then see a flashback of how Shiori said something that made Onizuka angry. He punched the pillar and asked her to repeat her words, so she told him that he was too selfish. She then stated what everyone knows is true, even though they were thrown into this strange world where they have to support each other. Onizuka's actions are too much for them to bear. She told him that she was fed up with his rampaging and disturbing the atmosphere like a Karen's toddler. She told him to grow up, but Onizuka, who's barely a guy, decided to act like an uncultured swine from the 50s by punching her to shut her up. He hit her right in the face, and before anyone could react, Shiori's eyeball bounced off the ground while her head was all smashed. The one most confused about it was Onizuka himself, as he just wanted to shut her up for now, not for all. He didn't even touch her face yet. Other heroes started screaming while Onizuka came across a strange new feeling. Any normal person would regret his actions, but not this psychopath, as he started laughing while claiming that it feels good to be a man. Bro's father messed up his ideology of masculinity before walking out of his life to get milk. When the other 2 tried to hold Onizuka responsible for his action, Onizuka used his newly found Bluetooth smash power to squeeze both of their heads as well. He was now enjoying it more than ever and had already claimed a hat-trick. Mine stepped forward to stop Onizuka and use her healing magic, but Onizuka realized that Mine had a stealing-worthy skill, so he extended his hand to smash her and steal her skill. However, Kato and Nagisa immediately stepped forward, and even for a brainless guy like Onizuka, it is obvious that Kato and Nagisa shouldn't be messed with. Nagisa then ends the story by sharing that Onizuka disappeared after the two of them entered the room. He also forced two of the heroes to go along with him. Miyamoto adds that those two often hung out with Onizuka, so they must be just as selfish as him. Roy fully understands the situation now and starts thinking about something while noticing the frustration on Miyamoto's face. Meanwhile, Yuto and Melia bring all the beastmen to the demon capital Argonam. Melia then sees Ryan's family and says how she has got a really huge family. Yuto doesn't mind bringing the beastmen here, but he still asks Melia if they are also going to live here with the demons and beasts. Melia says that they will, but this time their lives are going to be different than before. Yuto asks what she means by that, so Melia shares that she's going to make this a new country. Ryan and Yuto are surprised and amazed with Melia's grand ambition, but more than that, they are impressed as it feels right to do so. However, Melia knows that it will take some time for them to establish a proper country, but now is the perfect time to place the first brick. Yuto thinks about how the Empire has lost a minister who supports their country and a hero, so they would definitely be in chaos for a while, which makes it the best time for them to establish a country. Yuto doesn't know that the Empire has now lost 7 heroes instead of 1. Yuto asks if it's going to be where the demon territory was originally located, so Melia states that it would. However, she first has to make a city for demons. Upon hearing the words Demon City, Ryan thinks about her childhood memories of the Demon City and blushes over the nostalgia. Yuto asks Melia what he should do to help her fulfill this ambition as soon as possible. So Melia thinks about it for a while, and just as she is about to answer, Yuto gets jumped by Nina, who's excited to hug her delicious Oni-chan. Yuto is slammed into the wall while Nina and Nona greet good morning to him. They have just woken up since their last fight. They tell him that they are hungry, but Yuto tries to shake them off, saying that he's not their food. Ryan and Melia smile as they notice how Nina and Nona have taken a liking to Yuto. While Nina and Nona are feasting over Yuto, Yuto notices the big guy among the beasts and walks toward him. He tells him that they are going to build a country, so the beast replies that this may not be as easy as it sounds. However, Yuto claims that since Ryan's father was the head of beasts and Melia's father was the demon king, he thinks that it would not be as hard as it usually should be. He adds that it's just his intuition, but he thinks that Nina and Nona are also from the same lineage. The big beast looks at Nina and Nona, who are wondering why the Yuto they were feeding on is turning into rock, so Yuto states that it's just his intuition. The big beast smiles, and says that Yuto's intuition is on point. However, they are the same as demons and dragons. He then uses this opportunity to sneak in his flashback by saying that they are a small group that he has been living with. They were originally a group of special individuals among beastmen and were different compared to others. Big Dude then shows an example of his power, saying that he's way more powerful than other beasts because he belongs to that group. However, even among that small and strong group, these two girls, Nina and Nona, were special. Their predecessor was a very nice person, and not just nice, she was very strong as well. However, her sensitive nature made others believe in her as their leader. With her gone, the big dude decided to follow Nina and Nona. The beastmen may not be interested in the creation of a demon country, but Yuto states that as long as they want to be independent, it's fine to him. Melia then adds, while side-eyeing Yuto, that the one in charge of this country is the strongest hero, so there shouldn't be anything to worry about, especially when both Yuto and Big Beast are fellow Onizuka clappers. Meanwhile, Roy reports everything about the Onizuka incident to the king and Dennis. Dennis then thanks Roy and allows him to step back. The king then talks to Dennis about how the number of issues at hand has increased, so he regrets not leaving the management of heroes to Dennis. He then transfers the responsibility of leading heroes to Dennis, while adding that they should immediately deal with the stray hero Nakatani. He then talks about Onizuka, along with Wajima and Suzuhara, who fled with Onizuka, highlighting how difficult it would be to trace them once they escaped into the wild. However, Roy informs the king that they shouldn't worry about that. They have already tracked down the 3 of them with just the Empire's military. All the other ministers are impressed with Minister Roy. Even the king praises him, and then gives him the new task of capturing Onizuka and his followers. Depending on the situation, he will decide what to do with the three of them. The king then orders Roy to take C with him. Roy wasn't expecting the king to ask him to take Commander C with him. The reason is that who else other than C can stop Onizuka? Dennis adds that even Commander C thought that the three heroes were difficult opponents, so he asks if the other heroes can join the subjugation team under his control. Valais likes the suggestion, and since he was in charge of the Black Wolf army, he thinks that it would be a good idea to entrust the strongest army to Minister Roy. The king then turns to Valais and makes sure he knows his role, which is to negotiate with Nakatani Yuto. He then asks Valais why he's willing to give up on the Black Wolf army, so Valais states that they need to put all their cards together to ensure victory. Even if he has the army with him, he cannot deal with the strongest hero, the daughter of the Demon King, the survivor of the dragon race, and the beastmen that were under Salisford. He thinks that they need to negotiate a ceasefire with Yuto until Onizuka is dealt with. The king agrees and then states that he always doubted summoning heroes because instead of meeting the expectations, it often creates more problems. With that, Yuto and Melia are now in the strongest position while the Empire has too much to handle. So if you want us to continue this story, let us know in the comments down below. We will try our best to deliver like that silver medal Turkish guy from the Olympics.